today. But how are you guys? How are you guys? That's what I want to know. If you want to watch a replay of that debate, I don't know if the full replay is up yet. I probably should have checked with Jen before. I know that like a good portion of the replay was up last night because Whisper, Jen, I want to call him. He helped us out and got that live streamed last night to YouTube. So it sounds like it's up. The beginning's a bit cut off on YouTube. We'll have the full at some point today, I imagine. Good morning, Felice. Oh, I probably can't hear you. Let me do that stupid mic thing.
Good morning. Hi.
There we go. Good. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Good morning.
Top of the morning to you.
We have a really nice outline today that I definitely spent at least 3 minutes glancing at. So
I know.
I'm really
Other
excited
pressing matters this morning.
It was a weird morning. I guess I'll take care of this right now. We'll talk about the mod debate briefly. There's one thing I do want to bring up. Prior to the debate, I was putting out like promo videos, and I was not super, I wasn't very sensitive in putting out the video. I made a video, obviously mod stands for Mother of Dragons. Mother of Dragons is a Game of Thrones reference. When I made the video, I used, was it Circe? Is that what it is? Is that her name? Circe?
No, Circe is the Lannister.
What's Mother of Dragon's name? What's her name?
We can't even figure out. We can't even get the reference right. But Circe is the other one.
What is her name?
I can't now. I knew like a second ago.
Daenerys. There it is.
Yeah,
Daenerys.
Circe.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm bad at this. Anyways, in the promo video, I used a video of Daenerys. Obviously, Maud is a black woman. That was insensitive. I didn't think about it. Sometimes I talked to Jones this morning just to ask him his opinion on it, and it gave good advice. He said, sometimes the impact and the intent aren't the same, and I think that like the potential impact of putting up that video overrides like any intent that I had. So I didn't take it down yet. I didn't want to delete it before I apologized. I didn't want anybody to feel like I'm hiding it. It's still there. I'm going to delete it after this live, but I just wanted to throw that out there that there's at least been some people who didn't think that was appropriate, and I think that's a fair criticism. So I'll take that down. And to Mod, I'd apologize. I didn't mean anything by it, but it was insensitive, and I apologize for that. So that's one thing I wanted to cover.
I think what the most important thing is we are always open to like criticism, and like that was brought to our attention. I think this morning, like it was handled as soon as it was brought to our attention. Jay spoke to Jones, and yeah, it's good to address, and it's a learning opportunity, right? Because that's all we can do is just acknowledge things and move forward.
Now, for the debate, I probably shouldn't have gone on Mods Live this morning. I didn't like that the Mods and Jesse specifically were being smeared. And then once I got in there and realized it was going to be a shit show, I just made it more of a shit show, which is kind of what I do, but probably shouldn't have done that. So that didn't fix things. But I wanted to give just like what I believe is a fair representation of what happened last night. So let me be clear about a couple of things. I don't remember whose idea it was to have this debate. I think it was mine. I'd have to go back and look. But Maud and I have talked about this for a few weeks. When we finally decided we set a date, I just reached out. I said, all right, well, we need a moderator because both of us have a tendency to talk over people, which is 100% true. So we're going to need a moderator. I said, do you have any suggestions? And she said, yeah, I think Jesse would be great. He's on my channel all the time. Like, I think he would be really fair. I was like, that's great. I agree with that. I think Jesse, it would be fair. It's somebody that she's comfortable with. So Jesse became the moderator. Then we said, what topics do we want to discuss? Maud listed three topics that she wanted to discuss. She wanted to talk about the border. She wanted to talk about the Georgia RICO case. And she wanted to talk about, what's the other one? Let me pull up my notes from last night. Crossfire Hurricane. So Crossfire Hurricane, the Georgia case, and immigration. They asked if what I wanted to cover. I said I like all three of those topics. We could discuss fascism if you want. And by the way, like I can if it ever comes down to it, these messages, they're on a group message with Jesse. These can be shared, but I don't think it's really necessary. I said we could do fascism, but it was me that was saying maybe we shouldn't do fascism. And the reason is because, as was pointed out yesterday, like we were using different definitions of fascism, or like they were using the 14 tenets, and I was using, I forget what you even call it, but like it's like the five. I forget what they even call it, but basically 5 indicators of fascism. So it's hard to do. And I said that. I was like, I don't know if we want to have this discussion, because at the end of the discussion, nobody's going to be right or wrong here. Like, I cannot prove that Donald Trump is a fascist. And I said in the debate last night, you can't, because outside of somebody just saying, hey, we're doing a fascism, it's almost impossible. Like the schmatzis didn't think they were fascists, right? Mussolini's crew, they didn't call themselves fascists. They make up other names like MAGA, right? So I was like, maybe we don't do that one. At 3:30 yesterday, Maud sent out a message saying like, all right, do we have these topics nailed down? We responded with Crossfire Hurricane, Georgia, and the border. And then Maud said, we can do fascism if you want. And I said, okay, those are the topics. Jesse, if you want to throw in any curveballs, do we want to do that? Maud and I agreed that Jesse could throw in curveballs. So when fascism was brought up, I thought this was unfair to Jesse. I don't care about me, but I thought this was unfair to Jesse. Jesse was accused of throwing a curveball. He did. It was Maud's idea. Fascism was Maud's idea. She wanted that to happen. I think she thought maybe she had a better argument. I'm not sure, but that was her idea. So for Jesse to be criticized saying he threw a curveball at her, it's absolutely not true. He did exactly what she asked. She chose all the topics once again. Jesse, she says she didn't agree to be fact checked. I guess we didn't say like, can we fact check? But I think that's a silly argument, to be honest, in a debate. I think it's silly to complain that you were fact checked. I think that's silly. We didn't feed any of those fact checks to Jesse. He did that work on his own. If you're going to make a claim, you have to back it up. Now, we're not showing our sources for anything. The criticism consistently from people this morning has been like, you didn't show your sources. Well, neither Maud nor I showed our sources, and that's not how these debates work. You bring out the sources when there's a point of contention, when you disagree on a fact, and that's the role of the moderator, because we're talking, the moderator's not. The moderator can go find out what the truth is and bring it to the table, and he did that. I thought Jesse, of all the debates I've ever seen, I thought Jesse did a great job. Jesse had a tough position. He was dealing with two fucking monsters who overtalk the shit out of people.
Well, I think he did do a great job. I think the confusion came out like where with Maud, where she felt she was the only one being fact checked, or that was the accusation. And then he did explain, which quite clearly, and this is the truth, like, facts don't need fact checking. And I said this to you on the phone. Like, I think you said it best at the end of our live yesterday, which was just the facts are on our side. Like that's the bottom line. And so it appeared that she was being like sort of disproportionately fact checked. But then he explained very clearly that he was fact checking both of you, but your claims were coming out true. He's like, the only claims I'm bringing up here are the ones that I can't fact check. He said your Agenda 47 video he couldn't find, and he asked you to find it. You found
Club 47.
it. Club 47 video. He asked you to find it, and you found it, and you played it, and then he was saying these are the things, Maud, that I can't confirm that you have said. And that's really, and it was all very clear. And I just want to be clear, like, I am very much, like, after yesterday, a Mother of Dragons fan. Like, it's easy to talk a lot, right? She is the only person on the right that had the guts to do that. Like, you can all talk, you could all tag people in videos, say whatever you want. Like, she is your leader, your uncontested leader, because she's the only person that is brave enough to get up and speak for you all. Like, she deserves all the credit in the world for that. And like I said, it's also a hostile environment because the facts aren't there. The facts aren't on her side. So I also understand like how it could feel like a hostile environment, how it could be easy in the moment to go into fight or flight, to stop listening, all of that. But like, I just do want to take the moment and say she deserves all the credit in the world for showing up. She's quite intelligent, quick up on the uptake, and like, yeah, like I think she's welcome back anytime, right? Like, and we would welcome any like conversation around the debate.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I understand that some people have experiences with Maude that they didn't like. Some people may not like Maude, and you don't have to like her. And again, somebody said that would stop making excuses for her. We're not.
What excuse did I
Here's the
make?
truth. There's no excuses to be made. She showed up. Okay, like for whatever we can say about anybody on the right, she's not the first person I've challenged, but I tell you what, she is the first person who didn't waffle on it, who actually showed up, who immediately accepted the challenge and then helped us coordinate an event that we tried to make fair, right? Like, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks of her personally. She showed up, and that's more than I can say for virtually any other Republican. I've challenged other MAGA folks to debates, honestly, like, she left her platform. We do have a bigger audience. The comments were going to be outnumbered. They weren't going to favor her. She stepped into a situation where she was going to be the underdog. She was going to be the villain, and she had the courage to do it. And for that, like, I think she deserves an immense amount of credit for showing up. You guys can draw your own conclusions on the debate. I don't really want to talk about like the result of the debate. Felice and I talked earlier. I think that debate should stand for itself. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube in its entirety. People can check. If you think I said something wrong, you should fact check it. And I also would say to anybody who thinks I got something wrong, fact check it, stitch it. I give everybody permission to clip my content, to stitch it, to do whatever you want and make your own videos about it. If you want to prove me wrong, do it. Everybody has total freedom. We will not copyright strike anybody. We will not attempt to get it taken down. If you want to fact check me, do it. And honestly, if you find something I'm wrong about, that's great news for me, right? Then I won't make that mistake again. But I do want to say this. I think that it's important on our side, on the left, to be more compassionate. We do advocate. When I thought it was really illustrating when we talk about the border, and when we talked specifically about like the razor wire. Like, if we are going to be the party of compassion, and we are going to be the party of kindness, like we do need to not over separate lines. I'm not saying if she makes you mad, don't go after her. I'm not saying that you have to accept everything somebody says. I'm not saying if somebody says problematic, don't push back. But I am saying when credit is due, I think we should give credit. And frankly, not a lot of people are willing to do what Maude did yesterday.
This is the issue. Like, this is what we're saying. We, like, everyone enjoys seeing debate, right? Like, we all want to see it. We have to create an environment in which we can see it, in which people feel comfortable to show up and debate. So that's all we're saying. We can't have it both ways. We want people to come and debate, so we have to create an environment in which that could happen. Now, also, it can be true that someone is ignorant, or someone is wrong, or someone is disingenuous and misrepresenting the facts of information. All of those things, multiple things can be true at once. But again, I just want to furthermore, we're tying a little bow around this, or attempting to, just as far as the comments, like, I personally, I was working on the outline for the show today while listening, but I personally never saw any sort of discriminatory comments. Now, that does not mean they didn't happen. All we can say, Jay and I, we in no way condone, any sort of bigotry, misogyny, racism, any sort of comments. We don't want things to ever be personal, right? Like we can all argue about the facts and things like that without making things personal. That's just our personal stance, right? Like, so to Maud, if she in any way felt like attacks were personal, that was not in our intention, and we don't want that. We want to create a space where not just Maud, but other people as well can come back, debate, and feel comfortable. Like that is the goal, to create more debate, more free thought, more ideas being exchanged in a healthy environment.
A lot of people are saying comments should be off for a 1v1 debate. Yeah, maybe. That's something that needs to be thought about. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's something we should think about. Let me just address a couple other things, and then we'll move on to just our regular topics. By the way, we're accepting opposition. So, if there's people that think we were unfair, you're welcome to come up and talk about it. If you want to rehash any of the points that we went over last night, that's also fair. There's an accusation against number one. No, say what you want about me, say what you want about Maud. We both said that at the beginning. We both understand that we are not well liked by each other's audiences. While I would prefer that everybody be kind, say what you want about me, say what you want about her. I think the attacks on Jesse are completely unfair. I think Jesse did a great job, and I just want to reiterate that over and over and over. I would love to have Jesse as a moderator for any debate I did. Jesse was hard on me. Jesse called me out on my shit at least 2 times where he's like, you're over talking, you have to stop. And I did, and Jesse was right to do that. But I want to just secondly defend our moderator team.
He's also kind of hot.
There you go.
Just throwing it out there.
I also want to defend our moderator team. And I got the details on this morning because I want to make sure I was right. We were, it's been said that people were muted. There were 2 accounts that were muted that are those people that are like, check out my videos at whatever. Those are always muted. Those are spam. I don't think anybody was worried about those. We also say that not to spam comments, right? There was a comment from Jen 1421 or Jen. Sorry, excuse me, Jen. And this is something that I know happened behind the scenes in Discord, that every time I spoke to silence the comments, they were going to just put salt shakers out in the comments. So what happened is we just muted the salt shaker. The salt shaker emoji was muted because it was taking over the comments. So when people say they were muted, they weren't. The salt shaker was. They could say anything that they wanted to. But the salt shaker, yeah. I don't even understand.
This is what it's come to.
I don't even understand what that is.
I don't get it either. Yeah. Does someone want to explain to me what that means?
And I think that it may be a fair criticism that we let people spam the comments with potatoes and we didn't with salt shakers. That might be a fair criticism. There was one
this
specific...
This is really what we're talking.
Yeah.
There are too many potatoes in the comments. We should limit the number of potatoes. I do agree with that. That's fair.
Yeah, the other person that was
here come the potatoes.
There was one person from Maud's group that was muted, and they were muted after like multiple warnings of spamming the exact same thing. That's nobody cares losers. So we can see who's muted. So going back on the live and checking the muted accounts, there was one. And it was nobody cares losers. And I don't know what their real name is. That's what it shows up as. That's the only person that was muted. And they were warned multiple times. So I just want to be clear on that. Any criticism people want to launch at me, do it. I'm happy to hear it. I'll own it. Again, with the promo video, I was wrong for that. I was wrong for going in Maud's live today, especially because I just went in and I mocked. Like, I didn't try and further the conversation. But the mods and Jesse specifically did a great job, and we hope to have more debates in the near future.
Yeah, I think that's fair and well said. And again, if anyone wants to come up and talk, like, has a point of contention with facts that were being debated or anything like that and wants to clarify, we definitely are an open platform. We don't want to just talk to ourselves and not hear feedback from the other side. So you are all welcome to contend any point or anything you've heard up here or bring up any grievance.
Airwolf, I see you in there. I just want to make sure you're opposition if you're trying to come up. To echo what Felice says, imagine Felice. She has to talk just to me every single day. So she does want opposition. Know. It's got to suck to just have to talk to me every single day.
Yeah. Can I make my point? Can I say something about the debate? Because I just want to correct one thing. You said we can correct things.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about the debate and how it finally all dissolved, because it was a very good debate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was going really well. It just kind of all dissolved over something that didn't even need to be a fight. Like the count 9, like you guys were talking about the count 9 in the Georgia indictment on page 76. So, like the confusion, it started, like Maud was making the argument from like the Supreme Court thing, like the Griffin case, like that the president of the Senate isn't an officer or whatever. That has nothing to do with what count 9's about. You know what I mean? Like it's not a debate over who's an officer. It's not saying that Trump was trying or other people were trying to pretend to be like an officer or the president of the Senate. It's saying that there was a conspiracy. So all like these Trump, Eastman, Cheeseborough, Ray Stallings, Giuliani, like these people were all together involved in a conspiracy, right? To get people to sign papers saying that they were real electors. The people pretending to be fake officers were the fake electors. It has nothing to do with who's an officer, if the president of the Senate is an officer or not. Like, so yeah, we didn't even need to fight about that. Like, that had nothing to do with anything.
One thing that I notice about that group is that they regularly make arguments that Trump's lawyers aren't making. They're looking for loopholes out of this. And I think it's because the case itself, you and I talked about this earlier, there are points of this case that like may be thrown out. From all the analysis that I read yesterday, the only consensus like across the board is that there are going to be things that happen in this case that like may be protected by free speech, and therefore so some testimony, some pieces of evidence will be thrown out because it's gonna be free speech. You're not going to be able to use that as evidence, and they have to figure out where the line is between free speech and harassment. That's going to be the tricky part of this case. But the case itself is very, very simple, and the points are very simple. You can't argue that Donald Trump didn't try to trick people and to put in fake electors. You can't really make the argument that he didn't try and threaten Raffensperger. And especially what you can't do is say that Raffensperger didn't think he was threatened, because he very clearly says he was threatened. At one point he says he believed they were hollow threats, talking about Trump. And when the exact threats, let me pull these up. Here's the exact threats from Trump.
Oh yeah, and she walked right into this.
Yeah, where were they? Oh, it's on the call. Yeah, so the ballots are corrupt. It's a crime for you because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. You can't let it happen. That's a big risk. Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election and it's not fair to take it away from us. It's going to be very costly in many ways. Right. And then of course his attorney wrote a letter is basically saying the same thing. Here's a report of 43,000 absentee ballot votes counted in DeKalb County that violated the chain of custody rules, making them invalid. That's not true. They weren't invalid. And by the way, this was something that the state of Georgia went over. There was I want to say there was like there was 1,800 different sites where people could drop ballots. They went through every one of those and they didn't find a single vote that could be thrown out. So it's pretty clear he threatened Raffensperger.
Well, and now we probably have some, like, the beautiful thing at any time, and I always encourage this, just like my background is as like in historical research, like that's what I used to do in college for my department chair. Like you guys can read this indictment. It's in chronological order. It tells a story, right? And this is not an indictment where it's like Billy says, like it's Billy's word against Sammy's word, and this is his testimony. These are paper trails, these are transcripts, these are recordings, these are emails. Like this, we're not contesting the facts of the case, right? And Trump hasn't brought a defense. In fact, that is why his best defense and what needs to be understood about the Fani Willis evidentiary hearing and trying to smear her, what that's about. The only person in the state of Georgia, this woman's tried like 9 RICO cases. She is not just qualified. over qualified to try this case. If they get her off of it, then not only does Fani Willis go, her entire office goes. She's an elected official. She hired everyone in that office. Then they've got to find someone else. Like she said, Nathan Wade wasn't even her first choice. She wanted the former governor of Georgia to work with her on this case. And he's a white man that said, hey, I didn't take the job because I'm not going to live the rest of my life in Georgia with bodyguards, right?
Yes.
They can't get people to do what Fani Willis is doing. And that's why they want her off this case, because delay is always the first defense. The first and only defense of Donald Trump, right, is delay. And then I think it's to get an underqualified attorney on this case.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be part of their defense, too. Like, this goes to RICO. Right? Like, RICO is this idea that you have an organization and that they use illegal means and threats to bully their way. An
enterprise, if you will.
Yeah, an enterprise. Thank you. This is why Felice is here. She says the right words. But that's just another piece of evidence that works for Fani Willis here, is that, like, I can't even fucking hire people. I can't even get people to work because they're so afraid of being threatened. Like, look what happened to Ruby Freeman. People were showing up at her door. She's repeatedly had threats for what? What did she do? She passed Shay Moss a mint. Right? And she's getting threats on her life. This is how RICO works. If this wasn't the former president, if this was just a mob boss, like, this would be an incredible script. Nobody would watch this movie and be like, oh, no, he was totally in the right. If just remove the fact that he was president and look at what he's saying and look at what he's done, look at the defenses offered. Are we like, threatens everybody, and then his defense is, I can do what I want. I mean, like, the Georgia case to me is open and shut. I was surprised we chose that case, to be honest. I think that it's going to be a very winnable case.
This is why they immediately started pleading out. Like, you know what I'm like? This was not people who were like, oh, we're going to fight this. Like, people, they're literally scrambling over each other's bodies, trying to be the first one to plead out. Like, and it's the same thing with the federal case. If you guys don't know what's going on with these cases because you're not keeping up with what's on the docket, like, Donald Trump has no defense. He hasn't submitted discovery. Jack Smith is repeatedly asking for Trump to make a defense of himself.
Yeah, please.
He does not have one.
Yeah, and the only ones that legally that they're filing, and which is why. Here was actually a thought that I had yesterday. Tell me what you think about this. Not conspiracy theory, but a theory. So, I think Donald Trump is keeping the free speech argument in his back pocket on purpose. And I think that the one thing we've mocked Trump's legal team a lot, rightfully so, but they're good at one thing. They are good at delaying, and they're good at delaying on a single issue and then going to the next issue, right? So now we have, I think, April 25th, the Supreme Court is going to hear the immunity claims. Which,
guys, the importance of that date, April 25th, that is the last day of the last day of the term, the last possible day the Supreme Court could delay to hear that case is the date they will be hearing it.
Right. And so I think that what will happen is there's no chance the Supreme Court is going to rule that he has presidential immunity. They're probably going to clarify that a little bit. And then Donald Trump is going to file, I promise, April 26th or whatever the cutoff is. There's going to be some sort of cutoff for Donald Trump to file a motion to delay. And he's going to file another motion. This is the one thing that they're good at, and they're lucky enough that that this is a bit of a two-tier justice system, that he's going to get preferential treatment. And the reason he goes out and he does this publicly is he creates enough of a public swell that the courts are intimidated. They're like, shit, like, we have a real problem on our hands if we don't hear this case. So he's done a good job, like, in the court of public opinion, of raising enough hell that the courts are forced to hear arguments. It's insane that our court is hearing an argument on whether or not the president is immune from committing crimes. That's actually insane. But he raised enough hell, and frankly, he should thank people like Maude and people online who continue, like, who keep running this and creating like a a fire, lighting a fire under these people and creating a lot of noise. But did you see what your friend wrote on Twitter?
Oh, jeez. Which friend?
Snell.
There's so many.
Tristan.
An actual friend. No, what did he write?
Let me pull up what this was. I saw it. I have not.
I thought you were going to say Patrick bet David again. You
No, that's best friend. Not this. Tristan Snell's not your best friend. Let me pull this up. Now I've got to go through his. All right. Nope.
If you guys don't know who Tristan Snell is, he is the lawyer, one of the only lawyers to successfully prosecute Trump. He just wrote Taking Down Trump, 12 Rules for Prosecuting Donald Trump by Someone Who Did It Successfully. He's a great person to follow on Twitter, now known as X.
You know what? This might have been, he might have put it up on Threads because I don't see it. And I can't pull up Threads. God, I want to
paraphrase.
I want to find. Yeah, that's the problem. I'm not great at paraphrasing it. Basically, he's saying that for some reason the timeline shifted. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Why didn't I save it? I'll find it. I'll find it on my other phone. Actually,
I'll look on Threads. Okay,
go on Threads. Go to his Threads. But he made a case, and I wanted to see what you thought of it. He made a case that some of these that there's some ruling that means that in September and October these cases will be allowed to be tried, and I think they were worried at the time that those would be pushed back because that's election season. But I literally saw it like while I was talking to you earlier, and I didn't bring it up. But by the way, those that are in the box, I just want to make sure we are allowed. Oh, they left the box. Okay, never mind. We'll cover that. If anybody wants to come up and talk about any of these points, if we have any opposition, please do, and we'll keep going over this. Did you find what I'm talking about?
Well, no, I mean, when did he post? I don't think so. It's not on here. It's.
Oh God, there's no way I just made that up, right?
No, I don't.
I don't think I would make up a Tristan Snell comment, but maybe. Let me log into Threads.
Yeah,
I don't even know my password. I don't even know my password to Instagram. I'll do it tomorrow. We'll pull it up tomorrow. We'll cover that point tomorrow.
No problem.
Sorry about that. That was compelling. Anything else you want to add on the Georgia case, or anything from last night, Felice, that you wanted to touch on? Any of the points before we get into today's outline?
No, I did think it was beautiful when it turned out that you were quoting Brad Raffensperger's book. and I also think, yeah, and I just think the point is like, it is always true. Like you were saying, well, actually, no, I want to start off by saying this. I realized yesterday I care about you. Like this. Aww. You know how I know I care about you? Because like whenever I care, like actually care about someone as another human being, like deeply, you know, like I can't watch like their sporting events, you know, because I used to, you know, I was a college athlete. I used to date athletes, and it's like if I was dating someone and I cared about them, or, you know, you can't like watch because you're nervous, like something might go wrong. That's how I felt yesterday. I was actually like nervous for you. It was like my child, like you were my child, and you had like a baseball game, and I was like very nervous for you. So that's a compliment for you. I actually do care about you.
I do find that most of my friends wind up feeling like I'm their child. I don't know what that says about me.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, I might need to grow up a little bit more. But yeah, thank you. That was my favorite part of the debate, and I covered this in the post.
The Raffensperger thing, yeah.
I didn't know that about Brad Raffensperger. When she said that Brad Raffensperger claimed he was never threatened, I was like, I'd literally never heard that in my life. But she cited her source. So I was like, all right, I'm going to see her source. Well, her source was like a fact check, and she was reading the part that got fact checked.
Yeah.
So she was reading the quote of like, here's what got fact checked. And then the very next paragraph was like, here's the fact check. And that's why I was so confused. And I was just scrolling through there. I'm like, who the hell got this quote from Raffensperger? I couldn't find the name of the author of the book, and then I'm like, wait a minute, it's his book. It's just him. He just said it. So,
and did his book just come out? I want to read.
Yeah,
it.
I think like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
That was also my favorite part of the debate. I agree with most of you, and that was, I think, that was the beginning of the end, because I was probably a little smug on that. That's when I started laughing, and look, I could have handled it better. We could have made it go longer, but I think we had enough.
No, yeah, it was a long time. Like,
and she conceded that. Good point. She conceded that. She conceded that he did say that.
Yeah, and I think that yeah, she did concede that point, and it was fair. I just think at the end it got a little bit heated, a little bit, like when emotions go up, then it pretty much people stop thinking. But overall, I think that was a great first debate, and we are proud of you.
Thank you.
Very much so.
Ice Queen is in the request. Ice Queen, I just want to make sure you're opposition before we bring you up. So just let somebody know. And then again, one before we move on, just one last shout out, not only to the mod team, but specifically to Jen, who was involved in all these conversations, setting up the debate. She is the only reason this got live streamed on YouTube, and she had to beg and plead for me just to call her back as I was stressing the last 45 minutes before the debate to make sure I had all the information I wanted. Jen went above and beyond. Jen is a business partner with us, and Jen makes no money, and she will make money as soon as I figure out how to get YouTube to pay me. But Jen does this, even if she had been paid, it would not be worth anywhere near the value that Jen brings as a friend, but as a moderator, as a babysitter, as a mother, as a sheep herder, whatever you want to call Jen. She puts in an incredible amount of work. She gets a lot of shit from a lot of people. She has to deal with me. So Jen texted me this morning, was like, I'm exhausted. And yet she's I try and get Jen as take a day off. She won't do it. Jen's not going to take a day off. So shout out, Jen.
That was so sweet.
All right, Felice, let's talk. Did anybody check on Ice Queen? Was Ice Queen opposition? Did we get that? Ice Queen, are you there? I forgot to check. I appreciate the debt. Ice Queen, if you're opposition in the comments, just put a thumbs up. She's got info.
Yeah, well, let's talk. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, all right.
Let's talk.
Yeah, we'll do it. What's the information we have, Ice Queen?
So I believe that Jack Smith is the one that brought up the 60 days, and it's brought up by the DOJ, and they're saying that because this is already an active court case, that 60 days will not apply and will not delay anything. That's the only info that I've heard from the Meidas Touch Network, that they've been reporting that.
Okay. So it's about the 60-day rule. That's what Tristan Snell was talking about?
That is correct. That they're...
Oh, perfect.
That's not going to cause any delay because it's not an active investigation, or it's not an investigation that's going through. So that's not going to delay anything because it's already... the charges have already been brought. So that's not applied to these cases.
Okay. That is beautiful. Thank you. That was necessary. Thank you very much.
This is my first time being live. I'm so, I'm obsessed.
Oh, you killed it. You killed it. Well done.
I'm so excited. Barely
Thank
200
you so much.
followers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
There we go. What a good audience. Okay. So actually now I have found on Thread Reader app. That's what he said. Your app. That's what he said. DOJ says 60-day rule does not apply to Trump trials.
As a preliminary matter, the Justice Department has clarified that its guideline to refrain from initiating indictments. I now get what you're talking about. Yeah, this has to do with the Justice Department indicting people, not with cases being tried. Yeah, that a court schedules during that time frame. Cases that are ready to go can start regardless of the campaign calendar. Cases don't matter. It's about bringing up investigations, casting doubt about people in an election.
Beautiful. All right. Well, there we go. All right. Well, W Ice Queen. All right, let's jump in. Let's jump into the to today then. Let's do it then. Do we want to start on the articles or the clips? Clips means we don't have to talk as much.
Yeah, we can do either. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Can I real quick before we go? There's a chance we will end things early today, guys. I'm putting a lot on Felice, and this is Thursday, which is the exhausting day for her. This is Felice spends all this time all week creating these outlines and listening to Donald Trump speak. So by Thursday, if we wind up ending a little early today, my voice may not make it all the way through, so we'll see.
Anyway, so I think what we wanted, I want to talk about Mike Johnson. So Mike Johnson, they're basically, listen to Mike Johnson was giving a press conference yesterday. Let's listen to this clip and then we can talk about why it's important.
So
we have
well
advanced,
spoken.
and we also advanced, as you've seen the summary, cuts to some of the agencies that we believe are really overreaching and have been turned in some ways against the American people. We're going to cut 3% from DOJ, 7% from the ATF, 6% from the FBI, and 10% from the EPA. And that's just a start. We have a lot more priorities and things that we need to advance. But the reality is, as we all recognize, is that we have to grow the House majority, take back the Senate for the Republican Party, and win the White House. And I'm here to tell you the reason we're optimistic is we believe those things are going to happen in November. We can't wait. That day can't get here soon enough.
Yeah. They're basically
hopeful.
I know.
That's
It's
really
absolutely
hopeful.
ridiculous.
We're going to win back the Senate, grow our majority, despite the fact that we've done nothing but lose elections. That's hopeful.
The House Republicans assert they cut the FBI's budget by 7%, yet the vast majority of that cut is because marked more than $600 million for an FBI building in Alabama the year before. Shelby isn't around anymore, of course. So they're basically, Johnson is claiming aren't quite as dramatic. Like, they're trying to act like they've made all these cuts to budgets that they actually haven't made.
Yeah, this is what I can't figure out about Republicans. And specifically people like Mike Johnson, and I'm trying to like get in their head. It is either I'm just becoming more liberal and I can't think like a Republican anymore, or it doesn't make any sense. Because some of these I'm not that opposed to. Like I'm not that opposed to cutting funding from the DOJ, ATF, or FBI, or even the EPA, if those funding cuts are for spending that, like, it doesn't matter. Like if we're going to cut money so that they can't throw lavish parties, or we're going to cut money that like limits their ability to limits programs' ability to spy on American citizens. Like I think that you could look at every one of those organizations and find ways to cut. You could do it with every administrative organization within our federal government, but the attacks on the EPA, that's the one that's
what I was gonna say. Like, except
it's
the
like
EPA.
the other three kind of made sense. With the EPA, it's like, oh, here's a nod to our oil buddies. Like, guys, Floridians can't afford homeowners insurance because the weather has gotten so extreme that insurance companies won't insure houses anymore. We have air quality issues, we have water issues, we have pollution issues, and it's not we have to do the opposite. We have to get much better. So at a time like this, when specifically like the red state of all red states, Florida, is getting hammered by weather events, to then cut from the EPA, it's so transparently just like doing what the oil companies want. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, no, I think it is performative 100%, but I think it's also misleading. Like, they're acting like they're cuts. And Chip Roy, like, right, I don't like Chip Roy, but I would say, like, he's not a performative conservative. Like, we have a bunch of Republicans now. Like, at the very least, if you're going to claim to be a Republican, especially a conservative, then stand on fiscal conservative, be a fiscal conservative. And I would say Chip Roy is probably one of the last fiscal conservatives left in the House. And he said it best yesterday. Like, because, I'm always harping, like, every single day, the 118th Congress is operating under Nancy Pelosi's budget, right? But now they've passed these bills, these 6 bills or whatever that, so they're not operating underneath her budget. But Chip Roy said it best on the House floor yesterday. He said House Republicans are doing these press conferences. They're pretending they've made these cuts. They're not what they seem. Regardless of what they tell you, we are still spending more now than we were under Nancy Pelosi's budget. So this whole time, we've been still under Nancy Pelosi's budget. The 118th Congress, the extreme MAGA Republicans campaigned on, oh, we got to get Nancy Pelosi out of here. The omnibus was so bad, right? The omnibus was so bad, it had to go. It never went. If you guys don't know, this entire time we've been operating under Nancy Pelosi's budget until just now when they passed the minibus, as Marjorie calls it, right? Which, and as Chip Roy explained yesterday on the House floor, is actually spending more now than Nancy Pelosi's budget. So, like, the hypocrisy knows no bounds.
Does Chip Roy not remind you of just like a toxic partner where
Chip's not well. He had a hard day yesterday.
Yeah, he's just like a toxic partner. It's actually been more now. Let's give him once every 4 or 5 weeks. Chip Roy comes out and says something that you're like, oh damn, okay, Chip Roy, and then like for another month straight, he's back to being the old Chip Roy. But every once in a while, he just like he comes out with something that gives you hope, and you're like, oh, I like this guy. And then like the next day, he's talking about replacement theory. You're like, God damn it, I thought you were one of the good ones. But he keeps staying in our good graces just enough. It's a really bad relationship that we have with Chip Roy. But I think, given both of our histories, we're likely going to stay in a bad relationship. So we'll probably keep working with Chip Roy.
Yeah, most likely. Well, I love abusive relationships. Those are my favorite types. Like, I don't know what to do if I'm not being leveraged in some way. Yeah. Well, okay, and I need to find the name of this bill, but it's less important, okay? But there was a hearing in Congress. You know me, I love a sham hearing, but I want to say it's Tom McClintock. It's like HR 73. It's something they had a hearing about a bill that like Tom McClintock he's a Republican from California, introduced, basically to say that if, this has to do with the completely delusionally false narrative of the migrant crime wave. So they want to bring a bill that says if somebody in the United States is here illegally and they commit robbery, or like they're a non-citizen, let's say, and they commit robbery, because they commit robbery, they will immediately be detained by the Department of Homeland Security. Like, there's already this bill makes no sense. It's just a performative thing. So it makes it.
How many agents would we need to have in order for that to happen?
That's what's crazy.
Is that even possible?
You guys just understand that. That's the other thing that's crazy understand what the Republicans are doing. They voted we have not funded the Department of Homeland Security. The border is underfunded. They are laying people off in order to, because they're so underfunded. In this minibus bill, they are funding the Department of Homeland Security even less. So just so you know, the 118th Congress, you guys are Republicans. You're saying the number one issue is the border. They are now starving funding from the border. But then in the next breath, they're having a hearing yesterday about if somebody who's not a citizen of the United States commits robbery, then we need to immediately, the Department of Homeland Security needs to detain them. If you guys don't know this, HR 2 didn't even include more detention beds. The bipartisan border security bill included funding for more detention beds, because that's the reason people are being released into the interior. There's not enough detention beds anyways. Right. And then they're having a sham hearing saying anybody who commits robbery is going to be put in jail. We don't have beds for people doing worse than that. Like, what are you even speaking about? It's just it's just all performative.
Yeah. Well, I checked. I looked through the budget. They are cutting DHS funding, but they're just going to have these agents work longer hours. But I did see that Mike Johnson promised a pizza party once a month. So I think that's going to make up for it. They're going to have pizza the last Friday of the month.
They all have pizza and admit to what type of corn they've been looking at, and then ask God for forgiveness. It'll be super productive.
Just reading some comments. As a reminder,
in the box
Oh, go ahead.
Hurricane. Are you opposition? Can you just let us know, and then if you are, we'll let you up.
I know Hurricane. Hurricane's a friendly. Okay. I know Hurricane. Yeah.
Sorry.
Good to see you, by the way, Hurricane. Just as a reminder, we do take gifts, and we'll read your comments. I forgot to change my background, so there it is. There's the Cash App and the Venmo.
Yeah,
on Felisa's side.
100% of this goes to us, grassroots funded. And if you want to leave a funny comment, like we've been doing F. Mary Banish, like 3 politicians, or funny jokes, like dad jokes, whatever you want, we will periodically read them out.
And I bring that up because there's a couple people who have sent messages this morning. First from Sue, who is the most supportive, gracious person you could possibly ask to be around. Said, Jay, it was a good debate. You all did a good job. To me, a very important part of the debate is that there was a good crowd, probably half conservative, and hopefully you gave the conservatives in the live pause and new points of view to think about. That's such a good point, Sue.
I love Sue.
That's why I felt bad this morning about going into Maud's live and mocking her, because there may have been some people in Maud's live that were on the fence, and I didn't really give them a good impression of me. And you're right about that. Our goal is to give people things to think about, and that's where I need to take ownership and understand. If I'm going to use a platform that wasn't just built by me, it was built not only by myself, but Felice, our mods, and our audience. I do need to be a little more responsible with that. That's a really good point. And then Katrina said, you did amazing yesterday. Thank you. I appreciate the support there. And as much as I love the support, and as much as I think I clearly won that debate, I do still think that there's room to grow.
And
I
we,
look forward to more.
I think, guys, we're being very gracious, right? I know everyone's like, Jay wasn't openly mocking her or anything like that. But the point
I did call her a child this morning, multiple times.
That's
when I say I was mocking her.
May not be fair criticism, yeah. But what we want to do is just always take the high road, and again, create an environment where people want to come back. We don't want to burn bridges. We want not just Maud, but other Republicans and their audiences to feel like they can come here and we can exchange ideas in a healthy way. But Jay, in my opinion, yes, you were very appropriate. It was a little, you were frustrated this morning, 100%. We probably could have
And look, again, we're
walked
not telling
around the
anybody
block.
We're not telling anybody how to act or how to feel. You guys do your own thing. I love you.
Exactly.
But for me, my goal and the goal of our team is to get more broad discussion, to get more conservatives in here. And so that's all I'm saying is I do have my role is to make people feel more comfortable, and I just need to do a better job of that. But you guys do your thing. Don't think for 1 second I don't think it's hilarious when you troll people. I do. And there are more times than you guys know that I'm watching the lives, but I do that thing on TikTok where you're not in the live. You can just watch it. People aren't notified that you're in there. So don't think for 1 second that I'm also not petty. I just need to hide my pettiness. I need to bury it down a little bit more.
And again, just think about it this way. You guys love debates. You love watching debates. It's exciting. We all had so much fun yesterday. We have to create an environment where people want to debate and feel comfortable doing it. Otherwise, none of us can have any fun.
And speaking of fun, 2 comments. One, if you're going to be a butt, make a fake account. Good point, Amber. I used to have a fake account, and then I had to turn it into a real account when I had gotten banned. And then F. Mary Banish, AO. Ooh, interesting. All of these, if still alive. AOC, Madonna, Mother Teresa.
Well, Mother Teresa, I don't know if you guys know anything about Mother Teresa, just as a history buff, but she's not that great of a person. And she believed that if you became an addict, if you had, the sin of addiction, that you didn't necessarily deserve pain medication while you were detoxing or withdrawing from drugs, from opiate withdrawals. She would just let people suffer. And she thought that would help God forgive them in their suffering. I take issue with that view of medicine and way to administer it. So I'm going to banish Mother Teresa.
Yeah, I agree that we all have our own. Everybody has trauma or things that have affected them from different organizations. One of the one thing that's difficult for me is respecting religion. It's hard for me to do that because I only really see it from my viewpoint. I openly admit that I don't have a very favorable view of religion, specifically my former church, specifically the Catholic Church. So yeah, I think we can recognize that Mother Teresa did many great things, but she also did that while upholding an organization that has done horrific things throughout basically their entire existence. It has not been an organization that I would be proud of the history of. So she's banished. Of course, I'm marrying AOC, even though I think she's very happy.
Well,
in her
you used to
relationship.
say that. Yeah, I do. I was gonna say, what happened to you wanted her to be happy with her fiance? That was last week. No,
Well,
you've
in all-
decided to be. Yeah, we of course we all want to
Yeah.
end up with
Well,
her.
the
I'll
other
fight you
options-
for her.
Well, in those other scenarios, it was like Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and I think Katie Porter was in there. I think who else was in there? It was
Porter.
an easy way for me to banish AOC and wish her well.
Wait,
But
so
yeah,
who's the
if I
other
had
one
a-
besides AOC?
Madonna. If I had a shot to break up AOC's engagement, yeah, I'm taking that shot.
He is not serious.
If it means she winds up with me, I want her to be happy, but I think I would make her the
So
happiest.
just purely for selfish reasons.
Correct. 100% selfish. Shoot your
yeah,
shot.
So of course, who wouldn't want to end up with AOC? All of us would. So yeah,
Even the
choose it.
Republicans who hate her.
One night with Madonna, I guess
That'd be wild too.
Pre the
Espe-
recent plastic surgery, maybe.
Good point. Jackie says, the official daddy of dragons.
That's I
you.
keep saying that. I'm like, oh my god.
Of to a rug. Don't forget people.
That's
Or
no matter
people
what
don't forget.
happens. This guy is still that guy. We all need to remember it. Don't let him get too big for his britches. This guy pleasured himself with a carpet.
Thank you. Well, I wouldn't put it that way. That's for anybody who doesn't know the story now. And I'm not telling.
There's
the story
many
right
people
now.
in here that have no idea what we're talking about.
That will be saved
Has to do with
for,
religious trauma. We are.
Yeah, that'll be saved for an RTP after dark one of these nights.
People were like, what?
Sandra Brown in the guest request. If it doesn't look like you're op. If you have something you just need to clarify, we'll do it. But if not, and you're not op, go ahead and drop. Or if there's something we're missing, stay in. Just let the mods know. Look at Chief. Chief's it. Look at this. This is where we're doing
Is that
Chief
Josh?
right here. That's
I'm
Josh.
gonna-
Josh is in on the joke with us. Josh, it's
I
nice
said-
to
I
it's
said
nice
good
to
morning.
not be combative.
I like Josh. Josh, come up here and tell us what you thought of the debate in a completely friendly way. This is
But also, take care of those geese, brother. Take care of those goddamn geese. There was another one that came in real quick. Sorry. This was for for a new background idea. Who's your daddy of dragons? I like that. All right, back to the news.
Oh yeah, okay, so let's go back to this. Yeah, we were. Oh, yay, Josh! This is Josh. He protects the northern border.
What's up?
Border. Hey, what's going on?
Before we get
Nothing.
started,
What about
Josh,
your
I just need to
debate?
know why you guys won't do anything about the geese. Once and for all, can we talk about the geese?
Because they shit everywhere.
And you like that? Like they're ruining my life, man.
Guys, this is the insight. I'm just going to clarify what we're talking about. The joke is that Josh needs to stop geese.
You did pretty good.
Oh,
Hold on, real quick. Let Felice go real
yeah,
quick.
let me just clarify something.
go
So
ahead.
the joke, the thing about the geese is this: Josh works for the Border Patrol, the northern border. He's angry about some of the people coming over the southern border. So we made a joke that he needs to stop Canadian geese from flying
Right.
from Canada into the U.S. So when we joke about the
Yep.
invasion of geese at the northern border, that's what we're talking about. Anyways, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, they're poisoning the blood of our
Oh, no,
golf courses.
I was just saying, I did watch your debate with Maud. Maud's pretty smart. She's a smart girl. But yeah, you did
agree.
pretty good RTP. But the one thing that you didn't, that you did not beat her at is the top number one issue, which is immigration.
Yeah, I didn't think like we had a super wide ranging conversation
did.
about immigration. If I remember right, like the points of contention, number one, and I think you would agree, like your border patrol, like when she compared like prisons to people coming across the border, like it's if you come across the border, you're not charged with a felony and going to prison.
No,
I think that was
what
one of the
she-
points of contention.
No, what she was referring to was the Venezuelan prisons that they're letting a lot of criminals out and sending them up to our border. That's
Yeah,
what
this
she
was a
referring
different.
to.
This was a different part. This was when we were talking about the razor wire specifically, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Why can you have a razor wire at a prison but not at the border?" And that my point was, well, because these people aren't felons; they're not convicted felons.
Right. Yeah, but it works.
Yeah, well, yeah, it works, and that was our argument too. Like, I think the big difference between conservatives and liberals on this is like, we do seem to care a little more about like the humanity of how we control our border, and I think conservatives largely are far more cruel with their border prescriptions.
I would agree with that analogy.
Yeah. So,
But I do think, like, I've read a lot of studies, John, you know me, always reading some studies. And I do think the best method is both deterrence, right? Like, people, what we've done and what honestly Fox News has done while trying to win elections is has built up people around the world's confidence that they can walk over our border. And like, so all of the, like when Blinken went to Mexico and they were having summits about how to stop the mass migration over our southern border, it is about deterrence. It's about, people have to have it in their mind that journey, right? Saving all of their money to get a plane ticket from Africa to Mexico to then attempt this crossing will be unsuccessful. Like, people have to get that out of their mind. So there has to be deterrence in some way. Now, whether or not, like, how the humanity of that, and like, that is a debate that needs to happen, right? But yeah, it is deterrence. And then it's also, in addition, the long-term plan has to be making other economies, like the places we've destabilized, like Venezuela. We have to make sure that people can stay in their countries, that they're safe, and that there's jobs available, so mass migration isn't happening.
No, I agree with you, but I'm not familiar with the destabilization of all these countries that you're speaking of, though. That's because that's the one thing that everybody brings up. Well, we did this to them. We did this. Well, what is it specifically that we did do to destabilize, like, countries like Venezuela or Honduras or Costa Rica, or the countries that, China? There's people coming from China and Europe, and they're just coming from all over the place. So you can't necessarily say that that's the reason that all these people are coming here.
Sure, but we could focus on the top two countries, which, Jay, you did a good job of speaking to with Venezuela. Like, we can track the direct intervention into the Venezuelan economy and an attempted coup by Donald Trump, right, to the mass spike in Venezuelans at the border.
So Donald Trump tried to have a coup on Venezuela.
well, let's be clear, that's hard to prove. What we can prove is that former special forces, and I want to say SEALs, but I don't remember if that's true. They might have been Army Rangers, but there were I think 2 or 3 that were included in this. They were attempting a coup in Venezuela, and they got caught like immediately. Like, they didn't even get to shore. They were coming in on a boat. You can see the video. You can watch this video. Like, if you look at Venezuelan coup, like, the Venezuelans got word. Somebody told, so they were ready for it. But immediately after that coup failed, that's when Donald Trump slapped the sanctions on Venezuela. And that, again, like, if the United States stops buying oil from Venezuela, that's half of their economy.
Well, I thought we only stopped because he was a dictator.
Yeah, well, I understand, like, that's what I would say if I was Donald Trump too. And if people want to believe that it's because he was a dictator, that's fine. But, like, we buy oil from dictators all the time. We didn't have a problem with the Saudi oil.
We almost exclusively buy oil from dictators.
He's not really a swell guy either. And we're not, and he's in the Western
Maduro's
Hemisphere.
Terrible.
Capitalism does not measure someone's morality, whether or not you do business.
No, I know, but
them.
being in the Western Hemisphere, dictatorships really should not be in the Western Hemisphere. There was the whole treaty after the World War II where, the East is really not supposed to impose on the Western Hemisphere. You guys do know that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, then you got to explain to me why there's a bunch of dictators at CPAC. I mean, if this is what Republicans care about, why are they inviting dictators to CPAC?
Well, I just think people have gotten too lax. It's the same thing with the border. Everything is everything is just, there's no accountability anymore. And I do believe this is why Donald Trump will win. You guys can, and you can say that the people that are coming here, they're seeking asylum and doing all this stuff, but we all know it's kind of a charade. Like, they're using the law as a charade.
Well, let's see if we can agree on this, Chief. Because So, like, yeah, when you point out that there's people coming from Europe and China, like, there are many countries, most of the countries in this world, that if you show up at the southern border and you claim asylum, you're not going to get asylum. I think last I checked, it was like 6% of asylum seekers are granted asylum.
Or even less, I think.
Was it less? Okay.
It's four. Yeah, it's
Okay. I would try to
6
go
is
high.
the
It's in
very
that
high
range.
end. Yeah, that was generous.
6
yeah.
is the high end. 4 is like the typical. But I mean,
So
like
yeah,
I just said,
statistically speaking, you're correct. Almost like the overwhelming majority of the people at the southern border are not going to be granted asylum, and they don't have valid asylum claims. I think that where we disagree, where my frustration lands, is that, like, how do you fix that? You speed up processing, right? You make it so
or
that we
you
can
put
process.
remain in Mexico back in place.
Well, they're not from Mexico, so you can't remain in a country you're not from.
Well, and I know the old asylum law, and because somebody corrected me, I think the old asylum laws was they had to claim asylum in the first country of like safe origin.
No, I
So
want to
that would
correct.
not be at the border.
Let me clarify, just to put that clear, because I think this is a misunderstanding of what Joe Biden is trying to do. It is Joe Biden that tried to enact that. Joe Biden and Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security, started to make it so if you stop, let's say you're from Venezuela, you need to stop in at least one other country first, right? This cannot be the first country you show up to when there's
Right.
20 other
So-
countries. Wait, let me finish. In between here and now, you have to stop somewhere else. But what happened was a federal court of appeals, someone brought a lawsuit in Pasadena specifically, sued the Department of Homeland Security and Joe Biden, and won. A federal court of appeals said that it doesn't go with asylum law, because you can't say to someone, now this is in theory, right? We're saying not all asylum claims are legitimate, but in theory, if someone's seeking asylum because they're in danger, we can't say, we need you to swing by another country. We can't dictate their path
But back
to
in the
seek
80s
asylum.
and the
Hey,
90s,
but Josh,
people could
I'm
not
not, let
come
me
here.
just
Remember,
finish.
they
I'm
had
not
to apply
arguing.
for
Let me just
coming
finish
here
talking.
from other
Josh,
countries.
I am not
You do
arguing
know
with
that,
you.
right?
Josh, I am not arguing with you, because what I'm saying is I agree with you. I think that under these current conditions, because of mass migration around the world, this is not going to stop. So what needs to happen, though, what we learned, what I'm saying is Joe Biden is trying to make that happen, but he was struck down in the federal court of appeals. So what we learned from that is, in order to make it so people have to stop in another country and seek asylum, right? This can't be the first place they show up. We have to change federal immigration law.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they're going to change it, but I'm just trying to tell you guys the reason, and I understand all of this, but the immigration thing is the biggest thing on people's minds. And you can say Fox News made it that way. That's fine. That's politics. It is what it is. But it's a real thing. And I lived in New York City for 5 years. And when I was there, I would meet several people that would just fly in, and they never went home. They're still probably there. There's too many people in this country that are here illegally. I mean, we're probably talking 20 or 30 million people. And I'm tired of waiting in line everywhere I go too. And I'm going to tell you what else. A lot of these people own businesses, and they're also creating.
You're tired of waiting in line? Is the reason?
Bro, I'm telling you, the people that are here are also increasing our inflation. It's causing inflation as well. I hope you guys know that, right? Like a lot of these people own businesses. A lot of these people.
Josh,
are
you
wealthy
don't
in our
understand how
country.
the economy works. They are actually contributing. They're paying taxes.
I understand that. I get that. I get that some of them are, not all of them are. Some of them are, not all of them. In fact, most of them are not. Do you know how New York City works? It's kind of like a cash is king there. You guys know that, right?
I used to live in New York City as well, Josh.
Stock
so yes,
market would disagree.
I do understand what living in New York City
But the
is
stock
like.
market is it's for whoever wants to invest in it. You can say that the stock market's doing well, but look at the price of groceries. Look at the price of everything. Of
Josh,
course the corporations are doing well. They're making record profits.
You're all over the place.
Josh, I was saying that the stock market would disagree that cash is king. I don't know why. I think let's go back. Let's
There's
get
a lot
back.
of underground
Josh,
cash things
Josh,
in New York.
Josh,
Trust me.
I hear it, but let's get back on immigration. Like, yes, there are a lot of people here in this country that are here, let's say illegally, right? We don't know the number because it's impossible to count that number. My contention is that Republicans' only solution seems to be, let's keep pointing it out, but do nothing about it. Like, there are so many other options. There, you can do amnesty. You can. Yeah. Why would you not? No. Why not do amnesty? Give me a good argument against amnesty.
Because they're not Americans. Okay, so can I ask you a question?
Yeah, if you grant them amnesty, they become Americans. So why not grant them amnesty?
Well, okay, can I go to the British Virgin Islands, pop up a tent on the beach, and say, "Hey, I live here"?
No, no. I'm not even talking, Josh.
Okay, so why are you allowing other people to do it in our country?
Because people are already here, and I'm saying what's the easiest and most sensible solution. I think that as Americans, what we should do is we should look at the problem and find the most sensible solution. And to me, you cannot deport 20 to 30 million people. You can't even find these people. So why not grant amnesty?
Okay, can I give you a different type of solution?
What if you just answered the question instead?
Well, okay. Well, instead of that, how about this? This sounds better. How about you keep the people who are here that are here and they're nonviolent criminals. The criminals you send out. Anybody that is caught of a crime will be deported. And also, we should be taxing the shit out of the money that they send to their home countries and to their families. This should be for America first.
Why?
Why not? Why not?
Well, because if we're going to start doing that, like you understand that, like if we're worried about money that's leaving this country, and you're talking about immigrants, that is a micro fraction of the amount of money that like the billionaire class is removing from our country and hiding all across the world.
Josh loves getting robbed by rich white men.
If your idea is that
I sure do.
That we shouldn't allow money to leave the United States without taxing it, I'm on board. But you sure as shit better apply that to the billionaires before you. Okay. And that's my problem with, again, Republican solutions.
Let's meet in the
you
middle.
guys think the problem is immigrants.
I'll do the immigrants. Okay, there you go.
Let's just make.
Josh wants to terrorize poor brown people running for their lives, but he's too scared to tax.
They're not running for their lives, and if they were, they should stand up in their own country and fight for their freedoms like we have to. So stop, please, really stop. That's just silly.
Stop what?
And
stop, Josh. What are
if
you?
Venezuelans wanted to make Venezuela better, they should stay in Venezuela and make Venezuela better.
Josh, every Republican on the debate stage is nonstop talking about people fleeing blue states, which is the data on that's shitty, anyways.
True.
But like,
it's true,
Josh. No, if my family was in danger, I would not stand up and fight against the government. I'd get the fuck out. I'm not going to lose my life. I'm not going to lose my life to stay in my country. I'm going to protect my family. We're out.
I have a really good question.
If I'm in danger and my family's in danger, I'm leaving.
Okay, let's put it that way, and let's see here. So if America comes under attack, are you going to flee then too?
There's a real scenario where if Project 2025 played out, yes, I have an exit strategy, 100%. If America turns into if America becomes a Christian nationalist institution, I'm out.
Okay. Well,
I don't want my child raised in a Christian nationalist country.
That's not anybody attacking you. That's not persecution.
I don't know. I don't know how much you know about. Yeah, I don't know if you know about the history of Christians when they control the government, but a lot of people die.
It's called the Spanish Inquisition. Check it out.
I think you guys are thinking about like olden times, like back in when Christians were killing people because they weren't converting. That was like in the 1200s, man.
No, not because they weren't converting. No, they in this country. We called women witches. We held witch trials to see if they were Witches. That was in this country, my friend.
But also,
Yes,
Spanish colonization, the reason what's happening south of here, that's because of Spanish colonization, where they came, told indigenous people, you are not allowed to speak your language anymore. And the one unifying trait they gave them was mass conversion. You convert, you renounce polytheism, or you die. Josh, that was not the 1200s. That's not a handful of decades. Like you're very confused about the timeline of what's happening here.
Maybe I am. I'm just talking. We're not yelling. You guys can
yeah, Josh, think about what's
Oh
happening.
no, I appreciate the conversation, Josh. I hope we can talk more.
Think about what's happening to women, specifically in Alabama. Think about, like, for me, my child came about through IVF. We did IVF to have my child. I have 2 embryos. If I lived in Alabama, I would be very, very afraid of the legal rights of these embryos that I have frozen somewhere. I essentially would be stuck either having a child, continuing to pay for the storage of those embryos, or I could face litigation. And that's me. Like, that's the most simple terms. What about women who don't have rights to make decisions with them and their doctor about their uterus, about their life? The government is stepping in and saying, like, based on...
Like,
yeah,
the
but that's what we're.
But abortion, I don't.
But that's That's the Christian nationalism I'm talking about, and that's with them not even fully being in power. So yeah, like, do I want my daughter raised in a Christian nationalist country? No, I will sacrifice everything I have for my daughter to grow up in a country where she is treated equally. So yeah, I would leave,
Do you feel like
it wouldn't
America
be
was
because of
founded
direct.
as a Christian nation, or no? I know it's not, but do you feel like it was?
No, I think they went out of their way to make it not Christian.
Well, they wrote that there is no official religion, but most people were Christians.
Yeah, but you got to think about why they left, right? They were being persecuted by the Church of England. The Church of England was the government in England, and you had people like Martin Luther, who simply went through the Bible and said, like, I've got some grievances with these things, and he was persecuted. He was run out, and his followers were run out. So the founding fathers of America, most of them were Christian, some of them were not. They all came here with the understanding to each other that, like, hey, it does not matter what we believe. We cannot establish a religion. The government cannot operate based on theology. That's how our founding fathers intended it. And we've bastardized that since the beginning. Like, Christians are the ones that have bastardized the Constitution. They've done things like put "In God We Trust" on our money, right? They've done things like including God in national songs. They've put God into government, but originally speaking, God was not in our Constitution. It's been Christian nationalists who, or maybe not, or just Christians, we'll just call them Christians. They're the ones that have bastardized this and created the confusion. They've slowly eroded the founding fathers' original vision. The original vision should be, Josh, I don't know if you're religious or not, but, like, you should be able to go to church on Sunday, and I should be able to sit at my house and talk about how dumb your beliefs are. And I should not get any tax breaks, and your church should not get any tax breaks. And your church should not be allowed to go to the government and petition them.
Well, neither should a university, right?
Well, I don't see any instance where a university is not allowed to
their endowments
to advocate.
Are billions, like billions.
Well, yeah, but
really, they're advocating. They're advocating. Trust me.
Yeah, I think they're allowed to. I think that our Constitution allows them to.
No. If you're going to tax the church, you got to tax. You should tax.
Universities are taxed.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, their endowments are not taxed.
Well, that's true. They're endowment, but there's a lot of ways that you can hide money that's not taxed. I agree. I actually do think we should tax endowments. I agree with that.
Yeah, I just have one question for you guys, and for real, this is a real question. Okay, when is it going to be enough people? Is it 500 million? Is it 1 billion? Like, when do we say our borders are closed?
Well, how about here's my, like, when you guys start working with us, we're trying to fix it. By the way, you know this.
The border would be closed right now if we pass that bill.
And border crossings are dropping. Like
that
border,
bill still allows people in.
Wait, hold on.
It still
hold on.
allows 5,000 people per
No,
day.
that's
to come in.
Josh. No, that's not true. You're not doing that. We can go over what that
I'm
actually
pretty
means.
sure.
It's a 7 rolling day average. Singles are all detained. They don't get in. It's 5,000 encounters. It's not, no one is released into the interior. Families go separately to what happens to families. But that's not true, Josh. You can't come up here and spread misinformation.
But it's not. Well, it's not just that. The border bill had a lot of pork for Ukraine.
Josh,
too,
the
right?
answer is that I agree with you. Okay. There is a humanitarian crisis at our southern border. It needs to be addressed. The more research I do about the border and what's going on, the more I realize how necessary the bipartisan border bill is and how much federal immigration law has to be changed. Like, all we can do is say, hey, I recognize that there's an issue here. Let's figure out how to legislate to solve the issue. And I have read the bipartisan border bill. I understand that it solves a lot of the issues. I mean, it still has issues on funding and there's a lot of questions, but it solves more than it hurts, for sure.
To answer your question, Josh, when will it be enough? I don't know. But like, the Republicans are doing nothing about it. You mentioned Ukraine. The reason Ukraine funding was included in that bill is because the Democrats and some Republicans were like, we need to fund Ukraine. And the House Republicans were like, we're not funding Ukraine unless we get a border bill done. They're like, cool, we'll do it together. So that's why Ukraine was included in that border bill, because that was a demand from Republicans that we will not fund Ukraine unless we have a border bill with it. So they did they did exactly what the Republicans wanted. They copy and pasted exact segments from HR 2. This was a very conservative border bill. And all I'm saying is, like, we can point to the problems with the bill. We can point to the fact that the bill itself isn't going to be perfect, and it's not. But I don't know how you have a leg to stand on, because your party is literally saying, let's do nothing until January.
Well, Joe Biden's done nothing for 3 years.
He's trying.
That's
He
not
said
a
he will sign
defense.
this bill.
We're saying to you,
no.
Josh, hey,
This
Josh,
is- this
Josh,
is a-
you've
it's an
been
election year. Of
screaming,
course he's
Josh,
trying
you've been
now.
screaming to whoever will listen that there's a problem. We're now saying, Josh, we hear you. We agree. There's a problem. Let's fix it together. And now you're saying, well,
Do you know why we like Donald Trump? But listen, I've read Donald Trump's what he plans on doing. I like his plans a lot better than Joe Biden's. I want mass deportations. I want those things.
You want
That's-
concentration camps?
yeah, he's got to change the Constitution.
No, that's not. That is not in there. That's not in there.
Yes, it
bro.
is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Where,
who?
Josh, do you think, where you once you round people up, where are you
For
going to
who?
put them?
Where do you put him? Josh, we had this conversation. This is a logistics.
Oh, we
it's a
did.
supply chain thing.
I'm telling you, man, we are the United States of America. If we can spend billions of dollars on Ukraine, we can spend a couple hundreds of millions of dollars sending these people home.
We're trying to spend money on the border. You guys won't allow it.
You guys are holding up the funding.
We're holding it up because we want Donald Trump's plan, not the bullshit one that the fucking
Okay, well then shut the
rhinos
fuck
and
up until
Democrats put
January.
together.
Then you guys don't get to be in the discussion until the election's over. Be quiet. If you're not going to do anything to fix it now, then just be quiet. But we've offered solutions.
But that's what
And
they're
by the way,
doing.
what Donald Trump is saying, Donald Trump is
What
so
they're doing
stupid.
is being quiet.
I'm not done, Josh. Josh, I'm not done. Donald Trump is saying that he's going to do what he did before. The only reason Donald Trump was allowed to remain in Mexico and close the border is because we had a national health emergency that gave him the right
Dude,
to do
if
that.
you ask
He doesn't.
Mexico
I'm not
to-
done,
to
Josh.
have
Josh,
these
I'm not
people
done.
remain,
Josh,
and he
Josh,
says
Josh,
no,
I'm not
and you
done,
say, "Bro,
Josh.
I'm not giving
Josh,
you your
almost
60
there.
billion
Josh,
anymore."
almost there.
That's it.
Josh, you
Okay.
got to stop talking over people. We're letting you talk. If his plan were to play out, we wait till January, and then what does he do? What about the courts are going to rule that he doesn't have that authority? So then what happens? They've already
Which
ruled
they
that
already did,
authority
yes.
has expired. Title 42 cannot be put back into place. So when the courts have already ruled that he can't do that, then what's going to happen, Josh? Then how's he going to address this?
You're muted, Josh, if you're talking.
Sorry about that. I'll tell you exactly what he's going to do. He's going to tell the courts to go fuck themselves, just like Biden did with the fucking funding with.
Let me
Fascism.
let me explain it. let me explain it again.
To college.
Hey,
For college debt.
they cannot tell the courts to
You
go fuck
started
themselves
fascism.
unless
wait,
he becomes a dictator.
RTP. Wait, RTP. You guys started the fascism.
Well, let me explain. Let me explain what Joe Biden did then with these student loans.
Democrats need to understand that you started the fascism.
Well, let me explain what happened. Yeah, let me explain what happened with the student loans. So Joe Biden did an executive order eliminating some student loan debt. The courts ruled that he did not have the authority to wipe out the student loan debt that he put forward. However, there were certain programs that he was allowed and had the authority to do. So the student loan debt that he has wiped out, the money for wiping out that student loan debt had already been appropriated. And what happened, there was a 10-year timeline. And because of his executive authority, it fell within the scope of his authority that he could move that timeline up. So that money has already been appropriated by Congress, and Joe Biden had control over that timeline. So Joe Biden simply moved the timeline up of this student debt being wiped out, and the stuff that the court ruled he couldn't do, he didn't do. So no, he did what he legally was allowed to do, which is why the courts have not ruled that this second set of student loan debt that he wiped out was illegal, because it wasn't. The courts did rule against him, but what a fascist does is a fascist does exactly what you said, and they say, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. Joe Biden didn't do that. Joe Biden said, all right, what can we do? And they figured out, well, here's the places where we can eliminate student loan debt, and that's what they did. That's not fascism within our government structure. And he listened to the courts, which is what our courts are there to do.
Well, he didn't listen to the courts, and he did what he wanted to do. And he
yes, he did. No,
also
I just explained that.
Prison his political opponent, so the fascism just continues to keep going with Democrats. Do you understand? There is
zero evidence.
You would have to know what fascism
There's
means.
no evidence.
Listen.
Josh, hold on. No, if you're going to make claims,
see
no,
the
not
charade
listen, Josh.
that the Democrats are trying to do legally and put Trump in prison. It's a charade. 99% of the shit is a charade.
Yeah, we're pivoting.
It's not that we're pivoting.
Josh, hold on. Josh,
I'm telling you what he's going to do.
Josh, I got to mute you for a second. Listen, I'm going to give you free reign. Here's the problem, Josh. You can't keep going topic to topic. If you bring up a point, wait for a response. We'll give you the response, then you can go. You can't narrativize this whole story. I'm going to ask you a question rather than narrativize myself. You said that Joe Biden is trying to imprison Donald Trump. What I need you to show me is any evidence that Joe Biden has been involved in a single one of these investigations.
Been already proven that I know, or
I'm asking you for the proof. I'm asking you for the proof, not your mind. Just give me the evidence, please.
Several times, correct? And he has been logged in the White House. Fannie Willis's LeBoo man, her little boo thing.
Hey, that was debunked in the evidentiary hearing that just happened. That she was literally questioned. That's not true, Josh. That was literally she was questioned, Josh. That was just debunked. I'm sorry, Josh. Well,
then there's too much misinformation out there.
That's not true. They were never in DC at the same time. Yes, it was misinformation.
That's correct. Certain
she was questioned under oath, Josh, and none of that was true.
Somebody in the Biden administration.
I don't think that was the claim that Josh was making. In all fairness, I think what Josh is referring to is that Nathan Wade met with White House counsel.
Correct.
Okay. Now, did he Biden
multiple times?
No, right? No, he never met with Joe Biden. That's untrue. He met with White House counsel.
And the
reason he met with White House counsel, which has been testified to, is that the former president is saying that they have immunity.
That is evidence.
So he met with what? Hold on. He met with hold on, Josh, please. He met with White House counsel because it is the prosecuting attorney's job to know what the arguments are. So he went to White House counsel and he said, what's the argument for immunity? And he met with them about their defense, which he would do if Donald Trump was in office still. Had Donald Trump won, this meeting would have still taken place. It has nothing to
it
do
was
with Joe
12
Biden. It has
14
everything to do
times.
with the White House counsel's job is to protect the White House, not Joe Biden, not Donald Trump, the White House. That's what he met with them about. This has all been testified under oath. So I'm going to ask you again, can you give me any direct evidence that shows that Joe Biden is is involved in any way in prosecuting Donald Trump?
It's like when we show you guys evidence, you guys don't listen or you don't want to see it. Him meeting with White House counsel is evidence. 12 to 14 times that
Of
he
what?
met
Of what? Evidence of what?
with. That's a conflict of interest right there, just them meeting, dude. Seriously.
How is that a conflict of interest?
Because he's the fucking the district attorney of Georgia hired him to convict Donald Trump on these charges. And he's meeting with White House counsel with Joe Biden.
About what? No, Joe Biden wasn't
Joe
there.
Biden was
That's a
never
lie.
there.
Making
You're
sure that
lying.
they're getting their case together.
Wait, Joe Biden wasn't there, so stop adding that part. What was he meeting with them about?
I have no idea.
Oh, so
I
how
wasn't
so
in the
then
room.
how is it?
I wish I was
So it's
a fly
evidence of
on
what
the
then?
room.
If you,
I'd probably
wait,
be
if
a
you don't know
millionaire
what they
today
met,
if I was.
if you don't know what they met about, how do you? Why are you saying it's evidence of something? Then you don't
Please
even know
don't
what the
tell me
meeting
you're
was
going to
about?
give me some bullshit thing that they met
Not
about. They had
questions,
tea.
Josh. I'm giving you
They had
the
tea
opportunity.
and talked about
Josh,
the
I'm
weather,
giving
like
you
Joe
the
Biden.
opportunity to state your case. This is your
My
opportunity.
case.
What did
Okay.
they meet about?
I don't know. I thought they met about
Okay, so
how,
then why is
how
that
they were going
evidence?
to prosecute Donald Trump, correct?
Wait, why is that evidence if you don't know what they met about?
Because why is he meeting with White House counsel anyways?
I just told you, because that's the role of White House counsel, is to give the
That is
defense
not
of the
the
White
role of
House.
the White
So
House
if
counsel.
if you're prosecuting a former president, and you need to know like what you can and can't do, because
So
look,
you
there
go
is a
to
lot of
the
great there is
incumbent
Josh
president who's a Democrat.
You gotta stop interrupting, my friend. You have to. Okay? If you're going to meet with White House counsel, you're going to talk about prosecuting the president, the former president, you need to have an idea of what is and isn't prosecutable, right? So you have to know there is gray area. And so meeting with White House counsel was the right thing to do while you build your case. And again, Joe Biden wasn't there. And what I've asked you to do is prove your claim that Joe Biden is trying to have his political enemy or political opponent prosecuted. And I'm asking you for any evidence that shows Joe Biden was involved. And you're not providing any other than he met with White House counsel, but you don't know what they met about. So do you really have evidence?
Let me just say something. I just want to correct the record specifically because this was under oath. I watched the evidentiary hearing. Nathan Wade was meeting with White House counsel because it is customary when somebody who was working in the White House, this is specifically about Mark Meadows, when their testimony is being sought by a grand jury, it is White House counsel that represents those White House employees. In this case, Mark Meadows. They wanted Mark Meadows to testify before the Fulton County grand jury. And and they were meeting with White House counsel, who in this case are the lawyers representing Mark Meadows, about whether they could get him to the grand jury. They did not end up getting him there. That never happened, but they tried to. That is why Nathan Wade met with White House counsel. It was about getting Mark Meadows to the grand jury. That is it. Everything else is your own speculation and feeling, Josh.
Okay, well, I'm just looking up different, like in the New York Post and in different areas here for the amount of times that they met, and it was fines. But I mean, you guys can talk about this anyways. Willis is finished. She perjured herself. It was perjury, right on the stand. You're a district attorney, and you perjured yourself. So
what are you talking about? What did she perjure herself on?
she lied about when their relationship started.
That's going to be that's going to be really hard to prove for a lot of reasons.
No, it's
Number
not.
one, like
It's called
wait,
cell
hold on.
phone data.
Well, it's not, because here's the problem with the evidence. One, what constitutes a relationship? Two, the cell phone data that they have puts them in the same vicinity.
Do you guys see how you guys
Josh, please.
slick Willie
Josh,
shit
please.
lawyers?
Josh, please.
RTP, you're
Josh,
going to make
please.
a great lawyer
Josh,
someday.
please.
You
Josh,
are really going to
please.
make a great lawyer
Josh,
someday.
please. Josh, please, would
Okay.
you let me finish before you get in your feelings? The cell phone data, and I'm just giving you facts, Josh. You can interpret this shit however you want, but these are actual verifiable facts. When you're talking about cell phone data, by the way, I recently went through a friend of mine who was they tried to unalive him. Some children were unalived. I was part of a case like where cell phone data was highly relied upon. What I can tell you about cell phone data is what those checks are telling you is what cell phone tower they connected to. Now, Fonnie Willis happens to live in a place where there is a huge nightlife, specifically for black people. Like it's a very heavily trafficked area, specifically for black people to go to for nightlife. So if you were at a bar or if you were at Fonnie Willis's apartment, the cell phone tower would ping the same. So you have to prove in order to again, you have to prove that Fonnie Willis was in a relationship. What you're going to have to do is prove that what is a relationship. You have to have concrete evidence of when it started, and you're going to have more than cell phone data that they were in the vicinity of each other. You have to remember that this isn't about like what looks suspicious to you. This is a court. You have to prove something. If you're going to remove Fonnie Willis, if you're going to charge her for perjury, you have to be able to prove it. And I don't think any of the evidence, it proves anything. Like you can speculate what it means. I'm fine with somebody saying Fonnie Willis is lying. I get why you say that, but you can't prove it. It's just as likely that he was at a bar that he was with Fonnie Willis.
You will make a good lawyer someday. And it's just like you guys in the comments. It's all about what you can prove, correct? They say it's all about what you can prove. And I believe that's I think there's two types of people. There's conservative Republicans who actually believe in what they see, and then there's Democrats who say you can believe what you can prove. And I understand the difference.
Yeah, I'd prefer the second one.
Josh, listen to me. You would not want, if Josh, put yourself in the situation, Josh. If there was a crime, if you were on trial, you would not want us to just connect dots and be like, well, this looks shady, so Josh is being convicted. You would not want to be tried based off the appearance of something, Josh. Be fair.
You're absolutely
Think about
right.
it. If you were in the position.
Scenario, what Fonnie Willis did is she set up a scenario where she had to pretend she wanted to hire somebody else. That person, who has also testified under oath, that said that they declined to work to take this job because they were threatened. By the way, Nathan Wade was the one helping her try and find people too. Like Nathan Wade was there for that. Nathan Wade was suggesting other people too. So in this scenario, she set up a scenario where she would try and hire somebody else. Then she would go with her second hire, Nathan Wade. Then she would pay Nathan Wade below his market rate for his hours, all so she could go on a $3,000 cruise.
Right. Well, there's a lot of cash exchanging here too. Remember, a lot of cash.
Yeah, I think the total they've come up with is somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000.
No, I've heard up to 10.
It's 9
yesterday.
It's just under 9,000. Like if you're talking about like the total and then
cash.
You could have it.
Yeah, outside of the trips.
Do you have $10,000 in cash?
And also,
I don't have $10,000 in cash.
Listen, but we could go. What's important to remember is she is not on trial.
I've never even seen $10,000 in cash.
Josh, she's not on trial. This is somebody who makes well over $200,000 a year. All of these people are held to the same ethics standard. Let me just finish. They pass the same Georgia State bar, right?
Like a slick, really shit lawyer. Donald Trump turned the tides, and he fucked her. Basically, he fucked her over. Seriously. She is going to be kicked off. And RTP, remember when we were arguing about who could actually enforce the 14th Amendment, and they came back and said it was Congress? Remember that?
What did you mean about that? I don't know what you're saying. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's sounding very dark, though. Josh.
I mean, Trump fucked her over. No. He fucked her over.
Yeah, by like threatening her? Is that what you're saying? Because he sicked all his people on and was threatening her?
He
he used the legal system to turn the tides back on, and it's gonna blow in the face.
I don't know if it's my connection or yours, but
No.
it's breaking up bad.
Yeah, Josh, I think if you can like go closer to your
I'm
router,
breaking up?
maybe, or yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. Yeah, and like the word, yeah, exactly, Boston
Sorry,
Red. The
can you
words
hear
when you
me
say
now?
picked off and you start saying dark, like open-ended, threatening
didn't say
sounding
that. Sorry,
statements,
sorry.
it gets
Because
it
was
gets concerning.
No. It was broken up because I was not having good connection. All I'm trying to say is Donald Trump screwed over Fannie. Like and I said he fucked her over because he's using the legal system and he's turning it around right back on her. And it's so funny to see. It's literally funny to see. And she perjured
except
herself.
for Josh, there's no charges against her. What are you talking about?
It doesn't matter. She cannot go in
does
front of
matter.
a court and perjure herself as a district attorney.
She didn't commit perjury. And if she did, then they can charge her with that, Josh. But Bonnie Willis is not being charged with perjury. But the day she is, you can come
Do you
up here
guys think
and
she's
talk
gonna
about
remain
her
on the
being
case?
charged. Hey, she hasn't. If she will wait when she gets charged with perjury, then you can come up here and talk to us about Bonnie Willis being charged with perjury.
okay.
What are you talking
you
about?
think-
Listen, Josh,
what do you
let me
guys
ask you
think
a
the
question.
char-
Let me just ask you an
What do
ethics
you think
question.
the chances is she stays on? Like, what do you think the chances are?
Well, within 2 weeks, right? The closing arguments have ended, and McAfee said within 2 weeks he will make his decision. But here's my opinion. I think he's a newer judge. I think the evidentiary hearing went on longer than it needed to. But I will say, like, I don't think that judge has ill intent. I think he's going to just, like, he'll rule. And when it comes out, whichever way it goes, I'm not going to feel as if, like, he's biased. I'll put it that way. I think he's trying to be as fair as possible, but he's doing it in a way where he's just a very young judge, a little bit inexperienced. Because the real issue is, this is an ethics issue. When you pass the Georgia State Bar, you can be brought up for violating the ethics code, and that goes before an ethics committee. If anything, he should refer this, in my opinion, to the ethics committee, where they all go for ethics violations. Because this is not a crime. It could be an ethics violation.
Yeah, well, it's definitely an ethics violation. But to me, I think the judge, because he is so new, he's not going to want to touch this with a hot potato. And I honestly think, I think that the evidence has kind of shown itself. You can. It's almost like they put up a hell of a defense. I'm sorry, but it looks great to me, and I really think that the judge is going to pull her off. And I think she's going to lose her fucking.
What do you mean a defense? She's not on trial.
It's not a defense.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm asking you what you mean by defense. What are you talking about?
When you come for the president of the United States, you better have your ducks in a row, and she had none of them. And you watch, it will cost her her job.
Okay, that's absolutely not true. But I do have a question. That's not true, but I have a question for you. This is my question. If you seem, when it comes to the district attorney, Fani Willis, like, you seem to really care about ethics and, like, what's right or wrong and lying and perjury and all of this stuff. But when it comes to the case of Donald Trump, who has perjured himself, who has been caught in lie after lie, why is it that in that case you don't care? Why do you not extend the line of logic to your own side?
Okay.
Why do you not hold him accountable?
Because I've seen states change their laws just to go after him. I've seen people change things to actually just come after Donald Trump. Donald Trump owes $350 million to New York for a crime that nobody... I mean, who doesn't inflate their net worth when they're getting a loan? Give me a break.
Me?
Give me a break.
Me.
That's something
Me.
that every
Me,
person...
Josh.
If you... Oh, really?
Josh,
so
me.
you're saying, say if I make $100,000 a year and I go to get a house loan, you don't think I might I make 110? Give me a fucking break.
But Josh, so you're saying that it's okay for him to commit crimes because this is based on laws, right? He broke a law. You can't. What he did was sign a business document, which is a crime, right? He committed fraud, but that's fine. If you don't like laws, you can endeavor to change them. That's fine. But my question to you, though, Josh, the question to you is why will you not hold him accountable for committing crimes?
Because
why are you okay with this man committing crimes?
There was no victim.
There absolutely was a victim. They're absolute. Oh, good Lord Jesus.
First of all, there's plenty of victims, but let me cover a couple of things.
Donald Trump is the victim.
Be quiet.
He is the victim.
Be quiet, Josh. It's my turn. Listen, a couple of things. I used to work in real estate where I invested in properties. The difference between me and Donald Trump is that the bank would never take my word for it. They would verify my documents. In order for me to show my income, I had to show tax returns. Right? That's how they verified my income. In order for them to verify my assets that I loaned against in real estate, I had to have an assessment, and the bank also did an assessment. What we
Did
see
they do
here,
an appraisal?
What we see here, sorry, I meant appraisal, sorry. What we see here is that Donald Trump was getting preferential treatment from a bank, and the bank was not acting in the best interest of their investors. They took on a risky loan, and they took on a loan based on documents that were lies. That is a crime.
They
You
weren't
should
lies,
not
though.
hold on. You should not be allowed to commit crimes to enrich yourself. You say who's the victim? I would offer you this. You're in law enforcement. If you get pulled over and your blood alcohol content is above the legal limit, it does not matter if you hit somebody. It does not matter if you caused any damage. That is a crime. You will be arrested. Not all crimes have to have a victim, but in this case, it's even a worse argument because there are multiple victims, including the investors of the bank, because the bank giving those preferential terms means that they generated less revenue. The state of New York is a victim. Other investors are victims.
Yeah,
there
the
are
person
plenty of
in
victims.
line for that same rate, the second person who would have gotten that loan that he got,
But-
that is a victim of Donald
But
Trump.
so the bank did have appraisers.
We absorbed
And
the risk.
and-
Do you understand
and
that we all absorb the
in
risk that they
Donald
take
Trump's
when he lies?
Contracts, it says you cannot take this for face value. You must do your own appraisal. Just like
And that has
every
been
other
ruled.
appraisal.
That's
and
been
that has
ruled
been
on.
ruled irrelevant.
Sorry.
How is
Josh,
that irrelevant?
because Josh, I can't just write a disclaimer to you when I try and
See, and
scam
that's
you and be like,
that's the
"Hey, by the
corruption,
way,
RTP.
hey, by the
That's
way,
the corruption.
Josh,
That's the
Josh,
corruption that they're
Josh,
after.
Josh,
hold on.
let us
Victim.
explain
Josh.
it to you so you can learn something. This is a learning opportunity.
Josh, if I'm gonna go, let's say Bernie Madoff. Let's just use him as an example, who ran a Ponzi scheme. Now, Bernie Madoff got caught running a Ponzi scheme. Do you think it would be a valid defense if Bernie Madoff said to every single person who gave me money, I told them you have to verify that this isn't a Ponzi scheme, and they said okay, and then they didn't verify that it wasn't a Ponzi scheme, and they all lost their money? Should he be let off the hook if he did that?
No, Ponzi schemes.
No,
are
absolutely
loans,
not.
dude.
Writing your own personal disclaimer does not absolve you of following
that's
the
not
law.
a loan.
That's the point,
A Ponzi
Josh.
scheme is
When
not a
Donald
loan.
Trump says,
It's a fraud.
when Donald Trump says you have to check, like,
you're right, a Ponzi scheme
you have
is
to
a
check
fraud.
these facts. But the other parts of the facts that you're leaving out is that he took properties worth $2 and $3 million and listed them at $60 million.
You guys just
he
don't
tripled.
like him.
He tripled
You
the
hate the
size
Trump
of his.
master.
Be quiet. He tripled the size of his apartment. And I'd like to point out that every time we start bringing facts, you go, oh, you just don't like him. No, listen, Josh. Listen to facts. Don't assume what we think. Listen to the facts. He overinflated the size of his residence by 3x. It was 10,000 square feet. He said it was 30,000 square feet. He took a triplex and he listed it that was worth between 2 and 6 million, and he said it was worth 30. He just flat out lied. And this is what sucks for you, Josh, is that you are forced, because you guys like Donald Trump so much, you are forced to consistently every day show up and defend criminality and try and draw these like false equivalencies to Democrats so that you can feel good about voting for a criminal. But I'll ask you again, you've admitted on this live that Donald Trump committed multiple crimes. I'll ask you one more time, give me evidence of one single solitary crime that Joe Biden has committed.
Well, to the American people, the border's a crime. Sorry,
Give me
it just
evidence
is.
of a crime that Joe Biden committed.
I think Joe Biden received money from his brother.
Okay, what's your evidence of
his
that?
son.
What's your evidence of that?
The checks that they found.
Okay, and it doesn't bother you that the checks that were sent to Joe Biden correlate with the exact amount of money that he loaned them?
Can I see the loans, please?
Yes, you can. You
show
can
me
go
the
look
loans.
through the evidence. Yeah, you can.
Show me 'em.
Yeah.
There is
That's
none.
the thing.
There's
No,
none.
Josh, the financial documents don't. That's the problem with financial crimes. There's paper trails. That's why they can't get him. Josh, the minute they connect these crimes, I cannot stand nepotism. I cannot stand billionaires in
if
this country
9
using
family
politics,
members-
inserting
if
money into
9
politics and manipulating people. Josh, I will hold any rich billionaire accountable for a crime they commit, but you have to connect the dots in financial crime. There's paper trails, Josh. The minute you have the evidence, I'm with you. Let's indict him. Let's have a trial.
For 9 family members receiving money from foreign sources, 9 of his family members, grandkids, his brothers, his kids, their spouses have all received payments and money, correct?
What crime is that?
From foreign entities.
What crime is that?
China.
No, from entities that have that's
Russia,
obfuscating, but go ahead. That's not true.
What crime is that, Josh?
What crime is that?
Yeah.
No, there's no crime if he has a
wait, what?
business.
There's
Yeah,
what?
it's not crime.
There's what,
What
Josh?
is the business?
There's what,
What is
Josh?
his business?
Wait, Josh,
what is
there's
Hunter
what?
Biden's business?
Hold on, my friend. There's what?
Show me what he got paid for.
It doesn't matter. That's not how.
Oh
this
my
works.
God!
Crime.
Oh God!
Oh no,
Yeah,
wait,
Josh, you have to
no, I
prove a
will
crime.
speak
That's
to
how
that,
our
Josh.
justice system
Josh,
works.
read the Hunter Biden deposition. He goes over all of his qualifications. This is a Yale-educated lawyer who has much experience in consulting. He does have the experience to sit on these boards and the nepotism required to do so. So if you want to read the
I don't know
Hunter
what that
Biden
means. That's a
hearing,
big word.
he goes through his.
I don't know what that word means. That's too big a
Nepotism.
word.
Listen, let me explain it. Nepotism is like he's a nepo baby. That means that you inherited power and money from your parents. Right, you inherit that. That's what Hunter Biden is. That's what Donald Trump Jr. is. They're through nepotism. They inherited money and power.
I wish I had that too. Don't you guys?
We all
I
do.
wish I had that.
Absolutely.
Right.
But again,
But guys,
Josh, what I asked you. Hold on.
But
I
RTP,
just
I
asked
gotta
you.
get going.
Okay, let's be clear though. I asked you to point to a specific crime Joe Biden committed, and you pointed to his family. And then I asked what crime they committed. You said there is no crime. I just want to be clear on that.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, if you guys don't think there's one, I still think there is, and so does America.
Well,
See,
I'll
that's
tell
the
you what.
problem.
I tell you what is a crime.
That's-
These fucking geese, and I need you to do something about that.
They are.
We shouldn't
I hear
convict
you.
anybody or crucify anyone on people's feelings, and you wouldn't want it to
I
happen
agree.
to you either, Josh. That's
I
all.
agree. I'm not disagreeing with you guys, but when you're putting migrants before Americans, and that is the
We
that's
want
the
to do
situation
something
right
with
now.
you about the border, Josh. That's what that's
I know,
the other thing
but
you
I'm
should take
telling you
away.
guys, that is how people feel right now. That Joe Biden is putting migrants before Americans, and it's unfortunate. You know, I voted for Barack Obama, like I did back in the
Okay.
day. Sorry,
Well,
but
there's a
your party
bipartisan border deal
your party
acknowledged and
has
on the
changed
table.
to the party of migrants. Period, and not Americans.
Oh, that's
And
very,
foreign wars.
very dark and bordering
Well,
on bigotry. But
It's not.
keep going.
It's not dark. It's not dark when we want to spend our own money in our own country. We want to stop printing money and sending it all overseas. But I gotta go, guys.
Come back and see
I
us,
have-
Josh.
Do something about the geese,
RTP,
Josh.
RTP,
Fix the geese!
You're gonna make a great lawyer, RTP. I swear to God. You will make a shady ass, motherfucking sneaky ass. You'll be rich. You'll be rich, bro. But you're gonna be a motherfucking sneaky ass, shady ass, slimy ass lawyer.
All right.
Josh, you have to learn to regulate your emotions in a healthy way. We care about you.
This is the best way I can give them, guys.
We're getting better. All right, Josh, go take care of those geese.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye, Josh.
Bye.
I think
That's
we
a
fixed
tough
him.
one.
I think we fixed him.
I just want to let the people in the chat know, like, we're not doing friendlies today. So just opposition. If you're in the box and you're not opposition, I know there's 6 of you in there. We're just doing opposition today. All right.
God.
I liked that. I liked that he admitted there was no crime. I like that a lot.
But
I think,
I mean, if you think about it, and the key is, and I get it. Like, I think, And there will be a State of the Union tonight. And I think like what the Democrats need to do more of, right, is validate feelings, right? Because there are big feelings. And I've said this all the time, like the thing, just as me, I could, I'm very far left. But I think the thing that the far left and the far right do have in common is like this deep feeling of something being wrong in this country, right? And I do validate Josh saying like, this is how America feels. Like we feel like everybody else is more important than us. And like all of these are valid ways to feel. And I think sometimes we need to be careful to be dismissive of those feelings because I understand, like I look at data, I look at patterns, I understand that things are getting better, but I also validate America's feelings. Like when you don't have money, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, when one illness, one trip to the emergency room is sending you into medical bankruptcy, like it is it would be to the detriment of the Democratic Party to say, but things are getting better. Like let's just not acknowledge feelings because I absolutely understand the feeling and like I'm feeling it too. So.
Could not agree more. It looks like I think we do have some more. Let me see. Make sure.
Yes, okay. One of the comments said, I'm exhausted being broke. Amen. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That also is a thing that sucks about like being a Trump supporter right now is like this guy's out there, like he enriched himself to the tune of apparently just under $400 million. And he did it by doing fraud that none of us would be able to do because we don't have the money. Right. We don't have the reputation. We don't have the money. We don't have the assets. So
it requires nepotism. Yes. That's the messed up part.
It shows how screwed up our system is for billionaires, like or how biased it is towards billionaires. Donald Trump did something bad. This is not good. This is not something any of us would do. But when you're a supporter of Donald Trump, you're forced to defend that kind of behavior. And I actually think that sucks for Trump supporters.
Guys, please tap the screen. Try to keep tapping the screen. I know we just had a long conversation. Let's tap the screen. Let's try to get to 150K. Also, if you would like to donate to us, this is Cash App and Venmo. Send us a funny message like an F. Mary Banish of politicians. We'll periodically read them out loud. And again, opposition welcome. So if you guys would like to request and have a conversation like we just had with Josh, we are definitely open to it and you are very welcome.
A couple comments real quick, Machine Gun Kelly, real quick. Let me just read these. From Lola for new leashes for the dog walking business. Thank you. And from Tony. One. From Tony Danza, he don't speak for me. Okay. All right. What's up, Machine Gun? Is this the real Machine Gun, Kelly?
No, I'm not the real one, unfortunately.
Damn. All right. What's up?
I don't even know where to begin. Where do you want to start? Because everything you said wasn't true. I don't know which one to start with, man.
Well, maybe you.
The Hunter Biden. We can start with that one if you want.
Sure.
Why did they say don't? There's a special prosecutor in Ukraine searching for Hunter Biden. His business, and they said if you don't stop that, we're not going to fund the war effort. Why did they do that if there was no crime being committed?
Wait, what?
Whenever Biden said, if you don't stop investigating my son, Hunter Biden, we're not going to fund you for the war in Ukraine. Why did he do that?
That's not,
no crime being
it's not true.
It is true. He said it himself.
Hold on. Let's clear up exactly what happened there. So there was a prosecutor in Ukraine, and not only the United States, but all our allies across Europe agreed that prosecutor was refusing to investigate corrupt Ukrainian businesses, including Burisma. And the people in Ukraine thought that that the owner of Burisma was doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin, and he wasn't being investigated. And so all of our allies, and including us, came together and said, we got to get rid of this prosecutor. And Barack Obama at the time had the ability, through congressionally appropriated funds, to give money to Ukraine, give them aid, the same aid that Donald Trump gave them when he was president. We've been giving Ukraine money forever. And what he said is, if you don't fire this prosecutor who is refusing to investigate, then we won't give you this funding. They fired the prosecutor. That prosecutor and the owner of Burisma almost immediately fled to Russia. As soon as he was fired and they were worried about being investigated, they both fled to Russia, right? And then the investigations began. The next prosecutor started investigating.
So what you're saying is, out of a whole entire corrupt country, Hunter Biden's doing the only legitimate business?
No, I
That's
don't
what it
really
sounds
know.
like.
Well, Hunter Biden was never in Ukraine, and
Well,
that's
if he
not
was
what I'm
never
saying
in
at all.
Ukraine, why did he get $5 million from Ukraine if he was never in it? That's kind of
Hold on. That was a rumor that was said by Alexander
that's a
Smirnov.
fact, though. We got receipts.
Let me just finish something. There are no receipts for that. That came from Alexander Smirnov, who
Well,
is now.
no.
Let me finish talking. I have the indictment. I'm gonna go get it after I finish this statement, because trust me, I have read every single legal document about this. That came from a witness named Alexander Smirnov, he filled out an FBI 1023, right? He filled one out in 2017 that said a completely different story. Never a mention of 5 million to Hunter, never a mention of 5 million to Joe Biden. Then, mysteriously in 2020, a new 1023 appeared where he completely changed his story. This was investigated by the FBI office in Ohio, satellite office in Ohio. They said, Christopher Wray said, that's why Margarine and all the Freedom Caucus were like, we want to see that 1023. And Christopher Wray said, this is not true. We have investigated this. Bill Barr said, this is not credible. We think this is Russian disinformation. And the Freedom Caucus threatened to put Christopher Wray in jail unless he produced that 1023 form. So he finally gave it to them. They ran with it. They had a hearing. They had over, I think, 4,000 mentions on Fox News of the 5 million to Joe Biden, the 5 million to Hunter Biden. And Alexander Smirnov has been indicted he is now in prison. And I'm not telling you this. This is his own testimony that the 1023, the information on it, came to him from Russian operatives.
So now we're prosecuting whistleblowers? No wonder he had to lie to get the least amount of charges.
Wait,
So what he said the first time was the truth.
Wait, so here's the prop. Well, what he said the first time didn't include a $5 million bribe. His first testimony did not include that. That came up long after. And by the way, the House Judiciary Committee and the Freedom Caucus, you can find a clip of Andy Biggs leaving their closed door testimony. And they asked Andy Biggs, who's a conservative, literally just lives in Trump's pocket. They said, what about the $5 million bribe? Did you find any evidence of that? And he said, no, we haven't found any evidence of that, but we'll keep looking. There is no evidence that $5 million ever existed, that a bribe was paid, there's no evidence that Ukraine sent it. There's no evidence that Hunter Biden received it. And that testimony all came 4 years after the original testimony. It appears to be a made up story. And by the way, Smirnov has admitted that he's getting his information, the stuff that he's testifying to, the stuff that he's telling the FBI. He's admitted that he gets that information from the Russian government, that they're feeding him that information.
Sure he is. When the corrupt FBI comes after you, what do? You lie and say what they want you to say.
Okay, so you think so?
Why do you think they're going to dismantle it in 2025?
I just want to make.
Let me
I just
shed
wanna
a
make
little
sure
bit more light.
go ahead.
It's not just that he's changing his story. So that's a good point. Let's address that. So yeah, you could say, well, he told the first time he had a completely different story, then he made up this second story. But why? Okay, let's just say he changed his story. That you don't trust that. That's fine. But then what happened was they asked to confirm his travel records, because his story, the Russian disinformation story that has to do with these bribes, has to do with meetings that occurred in different country, times, dates, phone calls. And they said, okay, you've changed your story from 2017 to 2020. Now show us the corroborating travel records. When they examined those travel records, all of the dates he said that these meetings happened when the bribe occurred, they do not match up.
So you don't think he's getting special privileges?
I think he's getting the exact opposite, because the two
Really?
crimes that, well, and I'll explain why. Yeah, the two crimes that there's actually evidence that he committed are that he evaded taxes and obtained a weapon when he wasn't allowed to. Now, Do you know any other person in the history of our country who was not an elected official, who had multiple congressional hearings about them when what they were accused of is tax evasion and having a weapon that they weren't authorized to have? Can you think of a single other person in the history of this country that happened to?
I can't think of a single person to get a plea deal. No, we would all be in prison.
No, the question. See, and this I appreciate that the deflection there, but the question I asked was, you can get and you can say that after, but I want you to answer the question first. Do you know of a single other person who has had multiple congressional hearings about them when the only crime that there's any evidence they committed was that they evaded taxes and that they had a weapon that they weren't allowed to have?
Not those specific things. If there's no evidence and they're being charged with a crime, I can think of one person, but not with a gun charge.
Okay,
and that would be Donald J. Trump.
Well, again, part of the qualifier there, my friend, was somebody who never held public office that got dragged before had Hunter Biden held public office, I'm actually okay with this. Had this been anybody who held public office, I'd be okay with it. But at the same time, we have Jared Kushner, who got $2 billion billion from the same people who funded 9/11, and we haven't had a single hearing about him. So I don't think that you guys actually care about corruption. I think what you care about is smearing people so that Donald Trump looks better. And again, I feel bad that this is the guy that you guys have to rely on and defend. You deserve better. You deserve a presidential candidate who is not constantly breaking the law. But again,
excuse me, what laws has he broken?
Well, there's
the fraud case is so far out there.
If you're going to ask the question, please. If you're going to ask questions, please allow me to answer it. So far, we know that he has been held civilly liable for sexually assaulting or sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. He's been held liable and charged and fined for defamation and libel. He's been charged now and found liable for tax fraud, for bank fraud, and then obviously he had the other civil suit. So far, bank fraud, sexual abuse, libel, and slander. So far, those are the laws that he's broken.
No, those are the laws he was charged for. He didn't break them. The fraud case was so far out there. It was a joke. The judge was not a real estate expert by far means. Even you can say Mar-a-Lago is worth more than 18 million. And if you say it's not, then you're not using your brain.
Well, why is Mar-a-Lago?
Every real estate expert says it's worth more than 18.
Where did the number 18 million come from?
That came from the tax he paid. And you don't tell your city, I need to pay more tax than this. You say, I should pay 18 million. All right, I'll pay it.
Great. So that's the problem, right? You're choosing.
That's not the problem.
Wait. Hold on. I'll explain it to you. Don't worry. So when the judge is trying to rule on this case, right? What the judge has to do is they have to take from when Donald Trump committed the fraud, and you start on that timeline, and then you go until now, and you say, like, how much did he enrich himself based on this fraud? So the 18 million is based on Trump's taxes, what Trump paid in taxes for the value of Mar-a-Lago. So it's interesting to say, like, I can't believe the judge listed it at 18 million, but Donald Trump also listed it at 18 million on his taxes. So why is it okay for Donald Trump to list it at 18 million to avoid paying taxes, but the judge can't list it at 18 million for a fraud trial?
So you said you buy real estate, right? Then
can you please answer the question first? Yeah. Please answer the question first and then go on. Why is it okay for Donald Trump to list it at 18 million for taxes?
He didn't tell him that was the tax number. The city told him. Florida told him how much
why
to
is
pay.
he okay? Why
because
is
Florida
he allowed
told him
to do
how
it,
much
but New
Why
York
shouldn't the auditor be at fault and not him? Because he didn't say it was worth 18 million in tax. The auditor did.
Yes,
right?
You sign business documents.
Correct. But did the auditor say that?
Listen to me. Your signature attests.
You don't tell me they under evaluated you. You say if that's how much you want me to pay, I pay that.
Let people finish, please. People finish, please.
It's not. Yes, that was an auditor, but his signature attests that he agrees with the information. Right.
Okay, so that means it's not his fault if he agreed with the auditor, right? Because the auditor made that evaluation, not him.
No,
the question I asked you was
unrelated.
The question I asked is, why is it okay for Donald Trump to pay taxes on a property valued at 18 million, but it's not okay for them to decide how much he owes based on that exact same property value.
Because the case isn't about taxes, if that's what you thought it was about. It's about him taking a loan from the bank.
It's not the question I asked. I'm asking
Then
you,
what does
why
it have
is
to
it
do with the
okay?
case?
Well, I just explained that, but I'll explain it again. You
Yeah,
have
go
to start.
ahead.
You have to start from the value of a property.
That's not the value.
I wasn't done. Well, it was the value that Trump chose. So if you're upset about that 18 million, you take it up with Trump for saying it was 18 million so he could pay less in taxes.
I don't need to take it up with
That's his
him.
fault. Well, it's his fault that number exists. He's the one that put that on his taxes.
The
And
auditor
signed
did.
the document.
Again,
The auditors don't fill out your taxes.
That's their
my
job.
friend.
That's
and
their job,
there's
right?
there's no auditor for your taxes. What are you talking about?
I don't understand what you're talking about. You
I
don't
know.
tell the city how much tax to pay on your house, right? Apparently, you don't own properties. Then you must have
You
lied.
don't tell the city. No.
So
wait, what?
whenever the city comes to you, they say you owe this much for property taxes. You don't say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm going to pay this much for property taxes." They tell you how much
Correct.
to pay. Then
So
you
why
should
is
know
it
how dumb that sounds.
Wait. So
Correct.
So the question is, why is it okay for that number to be used in order for Donald Trump to pay less in taxes, but it's not okay to be used in this trial? I'm asking you a question. Like,
Because the
just
trial
answer
isn't
the
about
question.
paying taxes. It has nothing.
no,
to do
I'm
with
asking
paying
about the
taxes. You just
value.
asked me. I answered. It has nothing
Okay.
to
How
do
do you
with the value.
determine? How should they have determined the value?
Well, they did determine it. The banks had their own people come out and look at it and
No.
determine
The
value.
court. How should the court have
The
determined?
court shouldn't
value?
have. It should have never been to that court. It should have went to a higher
yeah, it
court
should have
that
never been to
specializes
court.
in that.
Okay,
That specializes in that.
But
Why
since
wasn't
it
there a
wasn't,
jury?
since it wasn't,
Why wasn't there a jury?
Since it was.
Why wasn't there a jury?
Because his dumbass lawyer forgot.
And then she tried to
ask for a
revert it, and the
jury.
judge said, "Hell no," because the
You're
case
not
would've got
allowed.
thrown
You're
out.
not allowed to change your mind halfway through a trial.
It wasn't halfway through. She just misdid it, and then the judge
Well,
said, "Nah,
she
we're
should
not
have done
gonna
her
do that."
job right. I don't know what to tell you. She should have been a
It
better
would have
lawyer.
got thrown out.
No, the reason they didn't
Oof.
want to
Yeah.
reason they didn't want a jury is because
Justify
they
that.
thought they had a better chance with the judge than the jury.
That is
why.
true.
And
You
then
know,
when it
because the
wasn't
jury
go-
would have
then when
threw
it
it
wasn't
out.
going their way,
The
they were
jury
like,
would have
"We
threw
want
it
a
out."
jury now."
No, that's not how it worked.
This is the thing, man. There's two schools of thought. You can either continue living your life believing that a billionaire in the United States is a victim, or you can face reality that billionaires do
So-
whatever they fuck they
so
want.
all these
And this is
experts
one
liars?
time a
Are
billionaire
you calling
is being
all these
held
experts
to
liars?
account.
Kevin O'Leary, Joe Rogan. all
Kevin
these
O'Leary is not
experts.
an expert on the law. Kevin O'Leary
He is an expert
not
on real
an expert on
estate.
the law.
Are you kidding me?
I said on the law.
Well, this is about real estate, so he is an expert on the law of real estate. Actually,
No, he's not, because he's
He does
been
it
wrong
for a
about a
living.
lot of this.
He has not been wrong about a single thing.
Well, let me do you want me to tell
Why
you what
wasn't
he's
a
been wrong
criminal?
about?
Why was it not a criminal case then? If he broke the law criminally,
Because when it comes
because
to,
he didn't. You're right. Thanks for enlightening me.
Hey,
No,
if
when you
if you're going to ask questions, let me answer them. Okay. The reason is, a civil case pertains to monetary damages. A criminal case refers to material damages. This was a monetary damages case, which is why it's civil. And what MAGA has now turned into is a group of people who don't think civil cases mean anything, who don't think that means breaking the law. And you're fucking wrong about that. It is still breaking the law. You can still commit felonies. You can commit felonies, civil felonies. You understand that? Like the difference here is that there is not an individual who was harmed. It was a monetary crime. It's still a crime. Just like, remember Bernie Madoff? He went to prison, right? No, it's not the same thing. But
Wait, because let me say one thing. I just want to let me
they'll do
correct
it
one
again.
thing, Jay. Let me just say one thing because Beresford made a good point. It's not a damages case either. Like that's an important thing to point out. Let me just say something. Let me finish just making one point, and then you guys can go. It's not a damages case. What happened was Trump did a fraud, and they said and the math is math. And read the judge's decision. The math makes sense. He says, based on my calculations, it's all there. This is how I'm doing the mathematical calculations. This is how much Trump made from this fraud. He engorged himself, right? He made this much money, and now I'm disgorging him. I'm taking that money back. So it's not damages. It's not like we feel this happened. Here's how much we think he should pay for it. He's paying back what he took.
Well, no, he's paying back the loan and then what he made off the loan. The legal definition of fraud requires that someone be defrauded, and that's the legal definition. So
Okay, but that has nothing
Yeah.
to do with what I just said. But okay.
charged with fraud, the legal definition, which is according to a court of law, someone
Can I
has
ask
to
you a
be
question?
defrauded.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Can you be defrauded without admitting that you were defrauded? Does a fraud charge and a fraud
Absolutely
conviction
not. If you say you would willingly do that again.
Hold on. Does a fraud conviction require that the person who was defrauded admit that they were defrauded?
Absolutely.
It does not.
They cannot testify they'll do the business again and do the same exact deal over and
Yes, they
over
can.
again.
Yes,
I
they
know,
can.
because they weren't defrauded. So correct.
Well,
You just
this
proved me
is
right.
the problem. If you lie on these documents, you're committing fraud. Is Donald Trump's?
He didn't lie, so I'm
well,
a
let
little
me ask you this
confused.
then. Okay, is Donald Trump's apartment 10,000 square feet or 30,000 square feet?
10,000, of course.
Okay, and what did he list it at on his financial
I think
disclosures?
that's irrelevant.
What did he
it's
list
the
it at?
point.
Every single
What did
property
he
in
list
New York
it at?
City does that. They will list it higher.
What did he list it at? What did he list it at?
I believe it was 30,000.
Okay, now is that true?
No.
Okay, so that's fraud. You lied on a financial disclosure. It's fraud. You may think that everybody else does it, and you might be right that some other people do it. You might be right about that. They're also committing frauds. So rather than being poor me, be like, Donald Trump's picked on, advocate that we go after more billionaires who commit fraud. That's what I would say. You want Donald Trump to be let off the hook because you think other people got let off the hook? I disagree. I think because Donald Trump did this, we should go after more people who are committing fraud. You and I can't commit this crime. He left. I don't know if he got. I didn't see a notice. Did you?
No, I don't know.
So he must have left. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the point.
Thanks,
It is
Barrister.
fraud. But again, if you don't like, you can endeavor to change the law, or you can say, yeah, like Kevin O'Leary, he brought up Kevin O'Leary. That is Kevin O'Leary's point. Not that a crime wasn't committed, but he's like, well, no one gets prosecuted for this, so Donald Trump shouldn't be. Like, his argument is not that Donald Trump didn't commit fraud. It's that, why should we prosecute people? Because he is also a billionaire who's probably projecting and saying, hey, I'm also committing fraud. Like, I don't want to be prosecuted for it either. But at no time is it's not up for debate if fraud was committed. He signed the documents.
Hey, Keegan.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I feel like for the last hour, maybe more, you've been talking about charges, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like the opposite of a lawyer. I know nothing about the charges or anything like that. All I know is what I see on Fox News and CNN. But what I'd like to talk about is Super Tuesday.
Okay.
So do y'all feel like that was a success for Joe Biden, or was that a step down?
I think both candidates had historic wins. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump, historically speaking, those were massive days for both of them.
There was only two states where Joe Biden finished with lower than like 80% of the vote, or 70%, I think 80% of the vote. So Joe Biden did well. Now with Donald Trump, what I think his issue is Nikki Haley was in the race on Super Tuesday and the primaries leading up. And what we consistently have seen is there is about 30 to 40% of the Republican primary electorate that is signaling that they will not vote for Donald Trump. That's the concern.
Okay. Well, I feel like, yeah, it was. I mean, we got what we expected from Donald Trump in the Donald Trump term. Sorry, we understood that Donald Trump was going to beat Nikki Haley, and whether he lost Vermont or whatever. But the thing is I feel like it was kind of a step back for Joe Biden because of the situation that's going on overseas with international conflict. And I feel like that multiple communities that aside with the leftist views are upset about the way it is going.
Yeah, you're right. Look, you're right about that. And I think what happened in Michigan with the protest vote, it worked. I actually, the next day we had Vice President Harris out there advocating for a ceasefire. I agree with you. Like there are people on the left. Some show up here. I certainly don't like Joe Biden's how he's handled Israel Palestine. I advocate for a ceasefire. I advocate for a two-state solution. What I like about what happened and I will draw the line here, like the difference between these two parties. Joe Biden had a protest vote, and it was most prolific in Michigan, but it happens in every state. There are lefties who don't want to vote for him, and rightfully so. And they are loudly speaking out and saying, like, you're not getting our vote if you don't make some moves here. Joe Biden made some moves. Is it enough? Probably not. Will it satisfy everybody? Probably not. Will it satisfy some? Probably. Now, Donald Trump was given a very similar referendum. Do something about women. Do something about what's happening to women. Do something about these charges. Do something about the constant attacks. Like, there are people in the Republican Party who are saying, I will never vote for Donald Trump. And he is doubling down on the policies that they don't like. I think one of the two candidates listened, but for both of them, massive victories, and also for both of them, there was a certain segment of the populace that said, you better earn my vote. Like, I'm not just going to hand you my vote. And I think that's great for democracy on both sides. I love that there are people forcing their candidates to meet them more in the middle. I think that's great for democracy. Well, I would say that the women out there who are worried about the attacks on the autonomy of their own bodies, I would say that has nothing to do with Trump derangement syndrome.
I'm not
Well,
talking. I don't know who that is.
Listen, I know you want to pivot off that, but hold on. People can't hear you for some reason.
That's not me talking.
Who was that?
I don't know. I was muted the whole time. I was so confused.
Did you hear somebody else talking?
Yeah, someone else is just talking. That's so weird.
That was our last guest.
Or someone else is with you.
Ghost. We got a TikTok ghost.
That is so weird.
I was like, RT, I was like, do you have like a brother or something that's in the other room?
Look, somebody else is talking. This is so crazy. Like, they're together.
Wait,
probably.
who is
they're
that's
together.
talking? No, because Keegan was muted.
I was muted the whole time. I'm not, I don't agree actually with anything you just said.
Yeah, you're.
All right, Keegan, you go ahead. Whoever that is, will you close out of your app and bounce? I don't know. Nobody can hear you but me. That's what's crazy. Like the audience.
I can hear. No, I can hear.
But the audience can't.
Oh, I can hear. I can hear him. Well, anyways.
Who are you?
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Keegan. It's your turn.
So back to what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, you make some very good points, but the thing is I've seen comments like this as well, and I thought about it as well, and I've actually talked to a couple people. All right, man. I'll look up Tara Reid.
Yeah, can you just be quiet?
But can you let me Tara speak?
Yeah, Tara Reid's in Russia now, so you could go find her there. Which none of that is true, crazy. But go on.
Shh. All right. Anyways, what I was gonna say is, you know, the Arab community, the Jewish community, they're obviously not going to vote for Trump. Not in a million years. Probably never. You know, they're never going to vote for a Republican. But the thing is them not voting at all is significant for the Trump supporters and the Trump party. Because the thing about it is, we can both agree that Trump is extreme. All right, he's very extremist, and his supporters are not going to change. It's not like some of his supporters are going to be Biden supporters, and it's not like he's going to gain supporters. He's going to have the same amount of supporters that he has now that he had in 2020. And if that is the turnout, if that happens in 2024, I feel like if the left party does not have as many votes for Joe Biden, that the toss-up states such as Michigan are going to be lost.
Well, let me just say, like, and on the right.
It started off when the Muslim ban came in and everything. But I mean, it is a very sensitive topic. So we do know Trump is a very extremist because he does speak to an extreme party. Now, I am a supporter of him, but I'm not an extremist. I'm a supporter, but I won't defend him. Meaning, yeah, I agree with charges that are against him. I'm not going to sit here blindly and defend a man that has done wrong. Now, with that being said, he is our party candidate. So, of course, I'm going to, I'm a registered Republican. I'm going to vote for him. And the reason is one of the major things I cannot stand about Joe Biden is him sticking to his words, whether that's him sticking to his words about leftist views. He doesn't stick to what he says, and I can't stand that for any type of politician. If you were to stick to what you're going to say on things that I don't agree with and do it,
could you give some examples of that?
Yeah, one example is oil. He is doing more domestic drilling than anybody else before, and he spoke to the climate change people and said he was going to try stopping that. He was going to try lowering it. He was going to try saving the environment, in which I feel like he has failed and done the opposite of.
So you would rather have a president who, in the face of like facts, never changes their mind and adjusts and does the right thing for America? Because Joe Biden, you're right, this was against Joe Biden's campaign promise, but he ran into a scenario where like we were having problems and everyday Americans were struggling, and we needed one of the big problems we had was gas prices were too high. And so he had to do what he could to get those gas prices back down. To me, that's a win. I would much prefer politicians who openly say I was wrong and change course than politicians who stand by their word. It's weird that we've become like that we've done this with politicians. And I think if we're being honest, the reason we say this about politicians is because we debate. We debate politics and we want our guy to look good. And so when we point to somebody on the other side, if we can find something that we feel they've been inconsistent on, it smears them and it allows us to try and like convince the other side that our side is better. But in real life, changing your mind in the face of data is a good thing. It's weird that we think in politics it's a bad thing.
That's what I do love about Joe Biden is he will pivot. He'll say, hey, I went the wrong way. Like, I'm going to go ahead and pivot now. Like, he looks at data and changes his mind.
Y'all make up a good point. But the thing is before he even said this in his campaign, it was already projected that inflation was going to hit the oil and gas. Now, if he would have said, hey, listen, climate change people, I understand right now we need to save the environment, but let's worry about our people first. Let's worry about the economy first. Let's make sure our country can survive for the next 10 years. I'm going to hold off on it before I start doing the permit thing or whatever he said he was going to do. I don't know 100%. It was a while ago. But
when he was making these campaign promises, gas was like at a historic lows. And we didn't yet know what would happen as we came out of the pandemic. Like, yes, there were economists that were predicting that inflation would rise, but largely we didn't know exactly how that was going to play out. And the reason Joe Biden had to act is because these oil companies were making record profits. They, even though like the supply and demand changed, they still inflated the price above what they needed to. They were making record profits. So Joe Biden had to step in because he has no control over the oil companies gouging the American people. There's nothing he can do about that without it being legislated. And, the Republicans aren't going to allow us to legislate against oil. So he did what he had to do. But let's be clear. If we're going to talk about oil prices, we do need to look at the oil companies and say, well, you guys made record profits. So you were gouging the American people when they were at their lowest.
I work for an oil company, so I understand.
I think we've talked before, right, Keegan?
We definitely have.
Yeah.
I knew I remembered your voice.
I'm back again. But we can. I understand that and hopefully nobody knows me in here, but I understand that yes, companies are corrupt. But I'm kind of riding the wave of corruption and still, I guess, profiting off of it. Anything in America that makes a lot of money is going to hurt somebody. And anything that makes a lot of money fast is going to hurt somebody.
That's capitalism. Yeah, and listen, it's impossible to be completely ethical in capitalism. I think we had this conversation last time. You work for an oil company, you're making a living, you found upward mobility in that and are working your ass off and being successful. Nobody faults you for that, Keegan.
And I actually, I wish that there was another alternative than capitalism, but at the end of the day, all socialist government just doesn't run like a good capitalist government, and
they run better.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, but there's the data doesn't really support that. Unless your data is who has the most money, then yeah, the capitalists do. But if you look at quality of life, when you look at the freedom index, these Scandinavian countries and virtually every country has elements of much stronger elements of socialism in their economies than we do. Nobody has a totally socialist economy. They're all mixed economies. But the ones that have more socialist policies, their people are happier, their people are healthier, their people are more free. The country themselves, their income is good, the cost of living is good. Their life, they don't have the disparity like we do. They don't have the uber poor and the billionaire class. They don't have their middle class struggling to just save any money. They are doing far better than we are. I think it's silly. I think we look at America and we're okay, we're the most powerful, we have the most money, and we say so we win. Well, yeah, you win in capitalism, but are your people is the electorate better off? Are the people better off? Well, statistically, no. We're losing right now. Our life expectancy is going down in America. We have 30 to 40 million people in this country who can't go see a doctor. Capitalism is not winning. Capitalism is helping some people win. But to say that, to compare us to other countries and say that we're the best if we're outside of talking about money and military strength, that's insane. We're not the most educated. We don't have we don't make the most money. We don't have the best quality of life. We're not the healthiest. All the things that we really care about, we're not the best at.
Agree with you on that, but at the same time, when you look at these socialist countries, they don't carry the diversity that we carry. They're mainly in Europe. They don't carry. We have Canada to our north. We have Mexico to our south. We have all kinds of diversity and culture around us.
Yeah, but if you put America, if you put the map of the United States in Europe and just covered it up, it would stretch all the way, it would take up all of Europe, it would take up parts of Africa, it would take up parts of Russia. We're massive. Of course we have more diversity. You're talking about very small countries. I don't think saying that we have how does diversity make a difference? If we all have universal health care, why does it matter the diversity or the race makeup of our citizenry?
Diversity means a lot to a country. When you're talking about socialist, you're talking about adding up everybody that's inside the country and giving them the equal rights, I'm just going to leave it at equal rights because universal healthcare, y'all would count that as a right. The right to all these different.
Well, I think the Supreme Court ruled it as a tax, but yeah, I think everybody should have it, but I think legally speaking, it's a tax.
Okay, but so you would agree that not paying taxes would not get you the benefits?
Well, some people, yeah, the most poor among us are gonna some of them are gonna pay no taxes. Some people's healthcare will be completely subsidized by others, but that's not unusual. That's how our healthcare system works now, right? The healthy subsidize the sick.
But if you agree with anybody, because I actually agree with anybody who pays taxes should receive government benefits, and anybody who doesn't pay taxes should not receive government benefits.
Well, yeah, like in the sense that like maybe if you're not a citizen, so you're not paying taxes, then yeah, I don't believe you necessarily need benefits. However, I would open up workers' rights so that people do pay taxes, so that they do have access to medical care. But yeah, there are some people who are disabled. There are some people who are retired.
what
there
if
are
you have
people that can't
cancer?
work. Yeah, some people can't work,
Even if
and
you
those are the
have-
people we most need to take care of. So really, the people who don't pay taxes are the ones we should worry about the most, because like they can't even have a job to pay taxes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is you hit it right on the nail. I'm talking about people who are not a registered citizen. But then if we're giving all this Medicare and everything to all registered citizens, we have a lot of people in the United States that aren't registered citizens because of how messed up it is to get a visa, how messed up it is to get citizenship. It is a long,
Give them amnesty.
it is a long time period thing.
Well, change that. Give the people that are here amnesty. Allow them to. They're here already. There's nothing we can do about that. There's no like this mass deportation is a pipe dream. Say, all right, everybody who's here legally, you have amnesty. Come in. We'll get you a Social Security or a what is it, TIN or EIN, whatever it is, and you can work and you can be employed and you'll pay taxes and that'll get deducted from your check. Medicare for all will be deducted from your check, and when you're sick, you can go see the doctor. No copay, no deductible. The same way. Like, doesn't that seem like the most sensible solution, to just allow the people that are here who are already paying into the system to work and pay taxes?
They would be if they'd be volunteering to pay taxes, but they don't want to volunteer to pay taxes.
Well, that's the thing. If you offer amnesty, right, and it would be interesting to see what the numbers are. You and I could not predict what percentage of, first of all, we don't know how many people there are that are undocumented. We also don't know what percentage would opt into amnesty. But then the argument becomes a lot more simple. If there are people who are like, no, I don't want amnesty, I don't want to live here and pay taxes, well, then I think you're going to get universal support across the board from Republicans and Democrats, right and left, outside of maybe some communists who don't believe in government, or some anarchists on the right that don't believe in government. Everybody else is going to agree, look, we gave everybody the opportunity to live here and to work here. And if you're not willing to do that, then yeah, then we can talk about deportation. Then we can talk about legal remedies. But the problem is like the simple solution is amnesty, and that cuts out a massive portion of people that want to work. And if there's still people that don't want to work, then we address that problem. But that problem, if I was guessing, would be a micro amount of people compared to what we're talking about trying to remove from the country now. I think it would be a small number of people. It would be doable, and you'd have bipartisan support. It would be much easier to get done.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree, but at the same time, it's easier said than done. You know, it's easier to say, hey, we're going to allow everybody to register for citizenship and give everybody that registered for citizenship the opportunity to become a citizen and everything a lot quicker and a lot easier than what it is right now. But then we run the fear factor of, well, what if they just quite literally don't want to? And then you said, well, you would agree that most people would agree to deport them. Well, that's easier said than done, because in order to deport somebody, you need to know they exist. And if we don't know they exist, then we're not able to deport them.
Yeah, I agree. Which is why that like mass deportation, like Donald Trump is advocating for, is impossible.
That's why we
Exactly
were
what you
talking
said.
about with Josh. Yeah, like it's the logistics of a mass deportation that's part of it.
But telling people, sorry, please keep going.
I was just gonna say, you don't know someone exists. How are you going to deport them? Like, easier said than done. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
But if you dangle the carrot and say, hey, those of you who are living in fear, who don't want to unmask, to show where you're, because keep in mind that these, however many people there are, they also know that they are here illegally, and they don't want to make themselves known, and it's impossible to track them. But if you give people an incentive, say like, look, those of you who are here, and we believe that most of you are here to work, like, here's your opportunity. You can be here, you can work, you can get benefits. Your children, your future children will be citizens. You can be educated. You'll have access to grants if you try and start a business at some point. Like, giving them the opportunity, however much that reduces the amount of people that would be deportable. I don't know if that's a word, but we'll use it. That would significantly reduce that number. So that makes it easier than Donald Trump's plan, right? So our plan still allows for deportation of people who are here illegally and don't want to work and follow the rules. But by giving them amnesty, that makes that number so much smaller, and everybody's happy. Like, we've got 11 million jobs right now that are unfilled. We have people all over this country looking for workers, and we have workers who can go through classified jobs every single day and be like, I can't work there because they'll need documentation. I can't work there. They'll need documentation. And where are they actually going to get to work? Somewhere that's going to pay them cash under the table, probably a manual labor job, and that's all they have. Let's open that up. Let's be competitive.
Yeah, I would agree on that, but at the same time, a lot of these people, RTP, obviously work is to make money, but at the same time, they are not fleeing their countries because they don't have enough work to do. There's plenty of work to do in all these countries. They're fleeing these countries because they are scared for their safety. These governments are corrupted by different types of, whether it's a cartel, whether it's a militia, whether it's the gangs. They are running for their safety. And when we have an open border, we're allowing them to run for their safety. We're allowing the people that they're running from to come over here, and we don't have them documented. So they technically are as in danger as they were over there as they are now. It's just a matter of time until they get tracked down.
But it's both things. Let's just say, like, yes, when you create a power vacuum in a country, when it's destabilized, yes, crime goes up, it becomes not safe. But the other issue is the economy. Like, I lived in South America for years in different countries. Yes, there is no work, and that is like the marketplace is corrupted. A capital marketplace that can exist when there's so much corruption. So yeah, there isn't like work available other than going into gangs, things like that.
Most of these immigrants are fleeing to Mexico. All right. And there is work in Mexico. It's not like America is like the only country that has work. Now, of course, Mexico does not pay as much as America does on average, but at the same time, there's still work. Now, the reason why they are going away from Mexico into the United States is because Mexico's immigration laws are a lot stronger than the United States, surprisingly.
And that was to protect themselves from being taken over by capital, like the capitalist Americans. I agree with you, but that part, like, we have no control over what Mexico does, right? We have no control over their government. We have no control over where people want to be. But we do know that there are unfilled jobs here, that we desperately need labor. If you listen to conservatives, you know that they're very, very concerned about our low birth rate. We need more people to fill jobs, especially as like the baby boomer generation is starting to retire. That is the biggest population in our country. We have to replace those workers, and we're not having enough children for whatever reasons you want to. It doesn't matter why. We don't have enough children to replace these jobs. We're about to have a massive labor shortage. This is as crazy as all this is at our southern border. Like, it's kind of coming at a good time, and we have the opportunity to capitalize and move quickly on replacing baby boomers if we offer amnesty and we offer work to those at our southern border who are looking for work. Now, we've got to process the right people. We have to go through the amnesty process. We need to fund our southern border. We need to fund the courts so that we can process all these claims. But like, it's kind of like we've got a problem at the border that we're not equipped for right now. But we also have an impending need to have more people in this country who can work. I would say, let's just call them military-aged males. We need some of those for our workforce.
Well, I want to, and just there's an article on the uschamber.com, Understanding America's Labor Shortage. And just in the first paragraph, like, it's interesting to see. So right now, the latest data shows we have 9.5 million job openings in the US, but we only have 6.5 million unemployed workers. Like, right? We have millions of jobs we need someone to do to have our economy functioning at full capacity. So there is, for people who want to be documented, who want a pathway to citizenship, want to contribute to Medicare, things like that, and want to be functional members of society, the math is mathing. Like, our economy would benefit from a pathway to citizenship, in my opinion.
why are Democrats so against spreading out the immigrants around the country? Because in the country right now, most of our immigrants come from the South. I work with a lot of guys that aren't citizens. You know, they come from different places. Most of them come from Mexico, not because they didn't enjoy the Mexican life. They actually still have family up in Mexico right now. They go and visit them. You know, I've been across the border. I've seen it. I've had fun with them. They have. I mean, their quality of life is really good. You know.
Yes, they also have fun south of the border. That is a little known fact.
They do have a lot of fun. They have a lot of fun. They have fireworks that are bigger than ours. All right, and I love fireworks. But anyways, back to the point. When I talk to them, they tell me about how when they came to America, they did not really understand what a good amount an hour was. You know, our minimum wage is what was it, like $8, $7 on average or something like that. And they were making below that. They were getting taken advantage of. Now, the reason why they're getting taken advantage of is because how it works is these companies like a fencing, a contracting job, a house job is hires subcontractors. They work as subcontractors and they don't have to register for any taxes or anything, and they get paid nothing, you know, and they get taken advantage of, and they don't have the awareness that they are being taken advantage of. So I believe that if we're bringing them over here, we also need to teach them about America. They need to know about America. You know, I believe education for immigrants is a pretty good thing, whether you're legal or not. You need to understand how this works. You know, you need to understand how our democracy works. It is pretty confusing. And you also need to understand so you're not getting taken advantage of. So you're not wondering why milk is $8 and you're only making $3, you know?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what the question is. I think your original question was why do Democrats not care about like spreading immigrants around the country? I agreed with most of what you said. I'm not sure what your question is.
In the South, they are taken advantage of.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm just not sure what the question is.
Why are y'all against spreading them out? And like, for instance, if you go and
I don't think we are. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
The Chicago governor was mad at Abbott for sending buses of immigrants to Chicago, which is a sanctuary city.
What? Yeah. Okay. So I did see that. Now, Chicago has said there'll be a sanctuary city. There's no such thing as like a designation for a sanctuary city, right? But Texas is given federal funds to deal with what they're dealing with, and what they're doing is they're sending people as political pawns to cities that they don't like, specifically that list themselves as sanctuary cities. The problem I think Chicago has is they're saying, hey, why don't we spread it out? Why are you just sending everybody here? Stop sending everybody here. We don't have the funds, and we're at capacity. It's a big country. I think that's what they were saying in Chicago. Like Houston's there you go. Houston's a sanctuary city. I live in Phoenix. We can take more people. There's tons of places. I think we actually are for spreading it out. What we're not for is using migrants as political pawns and shipping them off to cities, especially when they have to return to the border for their court dates. They have no ability to do so.
And I do agree with that. You know, I don't agree with everything that Abbott has done. But I feel like there is still resistance on the left for spreading out immigration around the world. You know, there is, although it may have.
You mean around the country? I think you meant.
Yeah, around the country.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Maybe you're seeing maybe you're just running in different circles than me. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that the people I interact with are hesitant to allow migrants to be spread out throughout the country. I think that the opposition that I've heard has mostly been that they're being treated not as humans, but they're being treated as political tools. Greg Abbott is pocketing that money from the federal government and then sending people off to different cities and not sending the funding with them. I think that I think that's the actual criticism. I've never heard anybody say put everybody in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. But maybe there's some people that I don't know of that are saying that. I've never heard that.
So this is what I've heard, because one of the guys I work with used to be in Colorado and was trying to start a subcontracting for tiling in Colorado. He said that no contractors would hire him because, I mean, he believed it was because he was an immigrant, and they aren't used to immigrant workers. They don't know how to speak Spanish. These contractors don't know how to speak Spanish. They don't know how to communicate correctly. They can't really ensure their work. Versus Texas, I mean, if you're getting your house done in Texas, you're going to have 90% of the people working on your house not speak any type of English or any type of thing. And these contractors adapt to that. I mean, bilingual contractors are in a rise right now. You know, there's contractors.
Sure.
I think that comes with proximity to the border. Like, absolutely, the like day laborers, Spanish speaking workers. Yeah, we are in Arizona. We're very familiar with it. Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's a familiarity thing, and certainly valid that you had a conversation with someone in Colorado, but yeah, like, I don't think that there's any sort of plot or operation to keep immigrants in certain states versus others. Like, how it works, like Jay said, there's federal funding. When immigrants are taking places, like if Abbott's keeping federal funding, the point of the funding is to allow these people to have housing or whatever until their court dates. So as well as when you are taking immigrants, like when I was a student teacher, I was a teacher in a district where we had Algerian refugees, we had Somalian refugees. It just depends. And like, that was accepted. There was federal funding around that. And I don't think that people don't necessarily welcome that. I mean, there could be prejudice. There could be non-familiarity when you don't have proximity to the border, but that's not an initiative being enacted by the left.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't like I said, it's a statement that doesn't have any, any proof or anything. I mean, I guess the only proof you can use is like, maybe a map of like projected immigration where they are right now. But when it comes down to it, I believe that immigration's always going to be good. But I also do believe, and you guys were talking about this about an hour ago, that there is a crisis at the border. That you guys are. I mean, there's a bipartisan bill being passed to help the border. And I believe that's a good thing. And hopefully each party doesn't try adding anything else to the bill that does not include the border. I hope each party plays good with each other, and that, since what the bill is about, let's only add things that include the bill. Let's not add any extra. And if we want to do extra, let's part off from the side and do another bill.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is that it's interesting that you are going to vote Republican, because we seem to agree on a lot of things, and most of those things are like are Democrat policies, fairly moderate. But it is interesting, like, your view of the border lines up far more with what I think Democrats are trying to do than Republican. Like, just reminder that the Republican plan is concentration camps, mass deportation. That's Trump's plan.
I feel like that's an extreme statement, but I feel
that's what he said. Those are, I mean, he didn't say concentration camps, so let's go just his words then. That's fair. Mass deportation. That's his plan.
We both agreed that plan is probably non-factual, and it won't be getting done, because you can't deport somebody where you don't know where they are at. I think
right. So if the guy's gonna make it so that we can't pass a border bill, and then he's saying, like, wait till I'm president, and when I'm president I'm going to do mass deportation, and we both agree that that's not going to happen, why vote for that guy? He won't even give us a realistic policy, and he's blocking all the policy that we're trying to put in place now.
Because he is he's saying that to scare. He's using scare tactics. He's almost
what's he going to do?
What do you mean?
Well, because again, he's blocking right now. Do you agree that we need to take action now?
100%.
Okay. He is saying, let's wait till January. And then when asked, what are you going to do in January? Mass deportation. So I understand what you're saying. Like, if you're saying that he's playing 4D chess, fine. But like, what is he actually going to do? Like, what makes you vote for him? He's just not going to tell you his plan and you'll still vote for him? He's going to, in fact, he's going to put out a fake plan.
I guess I'm
make
kind
sure
of
we don't do
confused
anything.
because I don't understand how he's stopping bills being passed when he has no role in the government as of right now.
Okay. Well, yeah. So why I'm making that claim is because he, as well as Mike Johnson and other members of the House Republicans, have said Donald Trump doesn't want us to pass this bill.
And Donald Trump himself, Keegan, takes credit for that. Like, yeah, he's not like, that's one of Donald Trump's things he takes credit for every speech. He says, Mike Johnson works for me. I stopped that border bill. Like, he readily takes credit. He doesn't dispute that. He's proud of it.
Bill that's currently being completed right now.
Yeah, this is
it was the one from the Senate.
Yeah, this is what happened. Like, they wanted funding for Ukraine. And so what happened was the Republicans said, we're not going to fix Ukraine's borders until we fix our border. And they took that seriously. And so they said, okay, let's have bipartisan negotiations. Do you guys agree if we negotiate a border deal with Ukraine funding that we can all agree on, you guys will vote for it? And they're like, yeah. So for 3 months, they negotiated that bill, and bipartisan James Lankford, the second most conservative senator in this, endorsed by Donald Trump as tough on the border, negotiated that bill with Chris Murphy. It was done. And the day it was done, Trump said, no, wait, I want to run on the border. Kill the bill.
Because I think you could probably agree watching Trump, like that's what he's running on. He's running on the border. He's talking about how bad Biden is on the border, right?
Well, I guess I whenever I hear him, I hear oil, and that sparks my interest. Whenever he starts talking about oil and helping out the oil companies and everything, that sparks my interest.
I would just challenge, say, like, maybe when you leave here, just go on YouTube and search Donald Trump border and just try and find like recent clips of him talking about like his border plan, and see like you'll see him bragging about killing this border deal. You'll hear him saying that all Joe Biden needs to do is put back his Title 42 policy, which he can't do. The courts have ruled he can't do that because we don't have a health emergency anymore. So he says that, and then he says once he's president, he's just going to do mass deportation. I guess I get what you're saying, like you haven't seen him say that, and I'm guessing most right-wing outlets don't put that up because it's not a good look. But I would just challenge you to go to YouTube and actually look specifically for what he's saying currently, his border plan is, and I think you'll be surprised.
I did watch his Iowa talk, and I do note that on he got brought up with the question, what are you going to do on your first day of presidency? And he said, well, they're saying I'm going to be a dictator. He's like, well, I'm only going to be a dictator for the first day. He obviously, the Constitution is not going to let him be a dictator by definition. What he means by that is he's going to change things. It's going to be like almost like a 180.
I agree with you there, and that's a good argument. That's the Ben Shapiro argument. He makes it compellingly. The problem that we have is that the people who give him the most money, the people who are paying all his legal bills, have a thing called Project 2025, and Donald Trump essentially has a dumbed down version of that, copy and pasted on his website in video form. And they are saying that the reason Donald Trump is going to be allowed to be a dictator on day one is because they're going to fundamentally change the administrative state and give him more power than any president has ever had. Keep in mind, what Donald Trump is saying is being a dictator on day one is for two things: to close the border, which he means sending troops, which means he would have to declare martial law. He would have to declare martial law on day one, and then drill, baby, drill, which would mean that he is telling all Americans, you have no rights. I have the rights, and I'm going to give those rights to drill, baby, drill to these oil companies, and they're going to be able to drill wherever they want. We're talking about a guy, even if he just did it on day one, That is above and beyond anything our Constitution allows. But if you have the right people in place, like they believe they do in the Supreme Court and in those administrative roles, he may just be able to get away with it. Like, there's been a lot of attempts over the course of this world of fascists to take over governments. Some worked, some didn't. But I think that it's pretty clear at this point that even if you don't want to believe Donald Trump is a fascist, he's got a lot of fascists around him. You can see the clip of Jack Posobiec standing there next to Steve Bannon at CPAC, the conservative place, and saying, "We want to end democracy and replace it with this." And he holds up the cross, like his cross, and says, "All glory to God, not all glory to government." That's at CPAC. Trump spoke at CPAC. Not as he hasn't come out and disavowed that.
Yeah, I have seen the clip of him saying, "In America, we don't worship government, we worship God." Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, but before that, he says we're going to replace democracy with this, and holds up the cross.
I don't know how he's thinking that he's going to do that, because if you've ever read the Bible, Jesus is against taxes. So
Yeah, well, don't get into it. Yeah, Jesus is a brown socialist. Don't tell the white nationalists, though. The Christian nationalists are very confused about a lot of things about Jesus.
Yeah, just a little history lesson. As Schmittler rose in Germany, he was heavily supported by the Catholic Church. In fact, the Catholic Church had a Schmittler Day. They set aside a day of remembrance for him. He was viewed as a partner with them, that he aligned with them. And so when you talk about schmotzy Germany, you're talking about a movement that was backed by the Catholic Church. Because what they saw is that Schmittler was talking about the degradation of the morality of the people in the country, which is exactly what the Christian nationalists are saying now. That type of aligning with churches, is exactly what Schmittler did. Exactly to a T. And that's what Trump is doing, who you can believe he's a Christian now. He didn't show any signs of being a Christian before, but almost all of his bills are being paid by Christian nationalists. And they chose his Supreme Court justices. They write policy for the Republican Party all the time. They are the most powerful voice in the Republican Party, and he's aligning with them. This is very, very similar to what Schmittler did in Germany. He aligned himself with the religious people, because the religious people, what that does is it turns it into a fight between good and evil. And the religious people will say the moral degradation of our society is imminent, and so extreme or desperate times call for desperate measures, right? Like we will go ahead and we'll abandon some of our morals, but it's for the greater good. And that's what you see with Trump. That's why you have a bunch of Christians saying, like, he's probably just kidding about mass deportation. He's probably just kidding about being a dictator. Why? Because what he's advocating for, they love. So they're willing to look past all this other shit that he's saying and write that off as he's not serious. But again, we saw that the 1930s wasn't that long ago, right? Less than 100 years ago.
Yeah, and I would say that 30% of these quote unquote rich Christian pastors are not Christian at all. And I'm about to get into a real sticky subject, but I'm going to start calling out names. When we talk about Joel Osteen, when we talk about private jets and everything, I'm a Christian myself. I go to a small church. I don't count those people as a representative of God in the Bible, because I believe your relationship with religion should be on a personal level. And when you're making money off of people from a religion, I feel like that is the definition of stealing. That's fraud, and that absolutely they need to be taxed.
Ian, why you're so confused? It's so confusing to me. It's such a conundrum. Well, how about this? Like, either Trump's going to be, this is my thing. Either Trump's going to be a dictator or he's going to be ineffectual, right? Because like, it's the same problem that we've seen with Joe Biden. The way I'm saying, like, hey, Keegan, we're both saying there's a problem at the southern border. There's a humanitarian crisis, and people don't know because people don't read federal court documents like I do. But Joe Biden tried to enact many changes that are in this Senate bipartisan border bill. He just tried to implement them. Mayorkas just tried to implement them, but they were struck down in federal courts. And we learned, not just Biden, right? Same thing happened to Trump. with Remain in Mexico, with Title 42. He can't go back to that because it's already been adjudicated that he can't, right? The pandemic is over. So that's the problem. That's why we need change. So Trump saying mass deportation, well, and he's saying day one, the military is going to the border. Well, then that's going to require doing some things that are go against the Constitution, right? And if he tries, he's going to be slapped with lawsuits from every direction, and he's going to be caught up in the courts and paralyzed by the courts. And so he will get nothing done. That's my point. Either he does some sort of takeover so he can shirk the power of the judicial system, or he will be tangled up in lawsuits for his entire 4 years.
I mean, whenever I think of what Trump's going to do when he gets in office, I more lanes on the side of what you were both saying, but I believe that it's his second term, and he's got nothing to lose. Okay, so when he gets into office, it's obviously going to be people are going to be freaking out because they know he has nothing to lose. But then when he gets into office, I feel like it's going to be a rebel against Republicans, like the hard extremists, because they're going to be like, dude, you got into office, you said you're going to be a dictator. What's going on? You're talking to them with a sweet tone. I mean, you may have been on your social media saying I'm going to nuke you or whatever, but now you're talking with a soft tone and you're figuring everything out. What is this? But I feel like Trump does a lot of talking because he's trying to get the vote. He knows how much of America there is that are extremists, that will just believe anything that is extreme. Let's be as extreme as possible to get their vote. But I think he is still, maybe I'm wrong, a smart enough man to understand that, in order to get things done, it's not how he says it's going to get done, but I believe he will still probably get it done, just not in the way he said it's going to get done. Just like, for instance, North Korea incident, he got it done. Yes, there may have been some rebellions whenever they sent, I forgot, where they were testing nukes whenever he was on the plane or something like that. But he still managed to walk into North Korea's country and get it done. Now, a lot of people were upset at him because they're like, dude, you assassinate him, send the military to go kill Kim Jong-un. He just said, you just called him a little rocket man. They're upset about him. But I feel like Trump is a smart enough man to know what's right and what's wrong, and I'm hoping that he does that again into his second term. That's what I believe will happen.
So I would address, I guess I would push back on quite a few things. Number one, Donald Trump wasn't smart enough to know that he was being used by Rocket Man. Like, that was a publicity stunt by them. They agreed on, they did not sign anything. They signed no agreement. And it was months later that they just restarted their testing program. That got nothing done, but it did help North Korea. It softened the view of North Korea. If you don't believe me, ask Republicans about North Korea. Look at their views previous to Trump's visit and after. Did we get any benefit? No. Who got all the benefit there? North Korea. Secondly, I would say that your response into like why you're voting for Donald Trump is that you believe that everything he's saying now is just a lie, and that when he gets into office, he's going to be a totally different person. And I would just say that's a pretty that's a daring way to vote, to just assume that the person is lying about all the things that they say they're going to do.
Reword that. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying the way he says he's going to get things done isn't the way that he's going to do it.
Okay, so you think that he's not going to be a dictator? Is that referring to like the dictator thing?
To the mass deportation. Obviously, we can't have deportation. If he spends the money for the mass deportation, the conservatives are going to be mad at him. If he, obviously that's not going to happen. I 100% that he's going to shut down that border. He's going to lock it down, and he'll send the military to stop people from entering that border. But when it comes down to mass deportation, I really don't believe he has any chance of doing that.
Okay. And I guess my last point would be this. I do not, for the life of me, I cannot understand people who believe in Donald Trump. Not believe what he says, but believe in him. He is the reason I'm no longer a Republican. I feel like I saw through him from the start. But what I would just point out is this is a man whose history, his entire life is very public because he wanted it to be public. He was very in your face. And what we know is that name a lifelong Donald Trump friend. You can't. Name a friend that turned on Donald Trump or that they had a disagreement with, that they're still friends. They don't exist. He has run through 2 wives, and his 3rd wife is MIA. She doesn't appear to be with him anymore. He has thrown his former business partners, his CFO, his attorneys, all under the bus. He threw Rudy Giuliani under the bus and didn't pay him. He throws anybody under the bus who disagrees with him. He has a history as a businessman of filing bankruptcy multiple times, dozens of times. And people can say that's smart, and that's fine. That is the smart move. But remember that what the smart move is filing bankruptcy so that he didn't have to pay money to people that he owed money to, particularly a lot of the times contractors who had employees. And those employees were not rich. At best, they were middle class. And those people were left without a paycheck so that Donald Trump could protect his personal wealth. There has never been an instance in his life that anybody can point to where Donald Trump was apologetic and where he put anybody but himself first. And we are saying that a man who owes nearly $500 million now in fines, is under multiple criminal investigations, is the best person to lead our country because he cares about our country. This man has never once shown that he cares about anybody but himself. He tried to throw his own kids under the bus in this New York fraud investigation. My concern with Republicans is that you guys wouldn't know a fascist if the fascist was standing in front of your face with a shirt on that said, "I'm fascist," but they didn't just openly say, "I'm a fascist." My concern is that Republicans aren't recognizing this attempted takeover of our country because they don't want to. They're the Christians. They don't want to believe that Christians are ever the bad guys, but Christians are always co-opted into fascism, because as a former Christian, as somebody who used to be indoctrinated, we're used to believing things that we don't have proof of. We're used to believing in a person that rose from the dead and had all these miracles, and we have no proof of that. We're conditioned that way. And I'm not attacking anybody's faith. If that's your faith, that's wonderful. But you should be aware that you have been conditioned from whenever you started having your faith until now. You have been conditioned to believe things that you have no proof of. And that's my concern with Donald Trump, is he's not treated like a politician. He's not treated like Mitt Romney. He's not treated like John McCain. He's not treated like George Bush. He's treated as a savior. And he did that on purpose, because by creating this persona where you and only you can fix it means that even in a conversation like this, you haven't agreed with anything that he does. In fact, you agree with all of our points, but you're going to leave and still vote for him. Why? Because internally you feel like it's the right thing to do. I'm telling you, it's not. You don't want to be on the wrong side of history. There is no solid reason to vote for Donald Trump. And the reason that you're giving is, I don't believe what he's saying. I think that he's just talking tough, and once he gets in office, he'll just be regular.
Well, I mean, yeah. So the reason why I would have to disagree with all that and all the extremist and fascist comments is because in 2016, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, it was Hillary Clinton was going to win the race. Hillary Clinton is winning no matter what. And if Donald Trump were to win, he's going to get us into nuclear warfare. I remember that clearly. I remember hearing that. And even being somebody who was not above the age of 18 and not able to vote, I could still remember and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, Trump is such a terrible man. And if this guy gets into office, it's going to be terrible. My family, they're not Republican. They were saying the same thing. But what happened was, and the same thing with the church and everything, when it came down to it, I put myself in the church. And the reason why I put myself in the church is we can get into a long story about that, but it's all because of moralities, believing in. And whenever I was so scared that Trump was going to be a dictator, he was going to use nukes in 2016, and he got in 2016. I'm like, oh, well, here's the end of the world. Might as well use my last $10 I got from my last birthday And then he wasn't. There wasn't any.
But he did move us closer to nuclear war. Like, he withdrew from the Iran deal. Iran is now free to go and try and possess nuclear weapons, and we have no check. We have no check against that.
There's a difference in inching towards it, and there's a difference between what they were explaining as it's going to be World War III as soon as he gets into office.
Wait, Keegan, let me say something really, just the point about nuclear proliferation. Like, when Donald Trump, you have to, it's sometimes the effect is indirect and it's mass. When he starts talking about, I'm no longer going to honor my NATO commitments, like, these are countries who have agreed to not proliferate nuclear arms, right? To not go seek them out to protect themselves. These are countries that we are supposed to be protecting. And we have other treaties that involve to stop the proliferation of nuclear arms. When Donald Trump starts talking about, we're not going to protect you any longer, it's not just countries like North Korea anymore. Now we're going to have NATO countries that are having to consider the fact that our number one ally, the United States, is no longer going to protect us. And the only way to protect yourself is to be in a nuclear arms race. We're going to have other countries, even European countries, having to take a look at nuclear proliferation in order to protect themselves. And that is a position that Donald Trump has put us in, and it is very dangerous.
So like I said, this is what I experienced. I experienced a lot of fear and fear mongo, but also another thing I experienced is whenever during his presidency, anything good that was happening was because of Obama, and anything bad that was happening was because of Trump. And I know you guys have heard that from thousands and probably thousands.
But is that a good reason to vote for somebody? Because other people were wrong about them?
Here's the thing, RTP. I feel like there is a lot more extreme about him than what there really is. Like, for instance, when you use the concentration camp analogy, if I was dumb and I would have not known what a concentration camp is, I probably would have believed that he said that.
Hold on, wait, no. I need to correct the record, because actually what you think a concentration camp is not what it is. Because of what happened in 1930s Germany or during World War II, people associate concentration camps with extermination. That in fact is not what they are. They don't all wait. It's just about hurting people for whatever reason, concentrating them in one place in essentially bad conditions or conditions they can't leave, right, for a purpose. It's not necessarily just the final solution that it has become, we've become to consider it. That's not what it is. And Donald Trump all over Agenda 47, it's not just related to immigration now and mass deportation, which, yes, he has stated, and Stephen Miller has stated, while people are waiting for deportation, they have to be kept somewhere, which will be because there's not enough beds in Homeland Security. They're going to have to set up makeshift camps. That doesn't mean that they're going to be exterminated. It just means that's where they're going to have to hold them, makeshift places. But also, when he talks about the unhoused, his solution for the unhoused in Agenda 47 is to gather them all together and keep them in camps. There are many, same with the unwell, mental institutions. He wants to come up with makeshift places to house the mentally ill. Camps are his solution for many things.
So I don't know about the mentally ill thing because I'm not going to speak on it if I don't know about it. But in the sense of we did the same thing with the Japanese in was it World War I or World War II? I may be wrong about that. That was a long time ago.
Two.
Okay. So, but the reason why we did that is for the safety of the United States, and the reason why we would do it again is for the safety of the United States. Now, obviously camps are not permanent. They should not be permanent. They should be not longer than a year. They are only there to get the job done.
You're saying at any time for the safety of what is the majority, the majority of the population, a minority population, the LGBTQ, the unhoused, the Japanese, can be rounded up temporarily for your safety. Do you understand
because
how scary it is what you just said? Are you grasping the magnitude of what you just said?
those communities don't show any that's a community. There's a difference between a community and undocumented immigrants.
All are human beings, and I really think you should think about what you just said.
Yeah, that's probably a good. That's probably a good place to fit. We're out of time, but I do want to give you, Keegan, just last word. I don't want to feel like we took the last word for him. So go ahead and have the last word, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so yeah, so obviously camps. I'm not a fan of camps. I don't agree with the point, but anytime that we have a crisis in America, I believe we should take the steps to put Americans first, even though over history, over time, concentration camps have been inhumane, they could still be humane ways into doing certain things, like a camp. There's still ways to make humane camps. There's still ways to deport people humanely. There's still ways to do things that haven't over time been okay to do it okay.
Yeah, and I would just say that's the overarching point that I was trying to get at, is that when you're co-opted, when a guy like Donald Trump, who I believe wants to be a fascist leader, when he co-opts the Christian right, in this case, what happens and what's happened throughout history is that what you do is you justify awful things. The camps themselves could serve a 5-course meal every day, have jacuzzis. I don't care. It's still a concentration camp. It is still taking human beings and forcing them into a camp. So could you have the world's nicest concentration camp? Yes, it's still a concentration camp. And by the way, Donald Trump's not advocating for the world's nicest concentration camp. In fact, I would venture to guess that it wouldn't be very nice at all. But at the end of the day, you're justifying concentration camps, whether they're good, whether they're better or worse than the ones that happened in 1930s Germany. You're saying, well, yeah, they just won't be as bad, but you're still justifying concentration camps. And look, we can disagree. We can disagree on if that's good or bad, but I don't think we can really disagree on, is Donald Trump planning camps? The answer is yes, he is.
At the border, I would believe that the border is a concentration camp.
Right. In some instances, yeah, I agree with that.
And
we're trying to. Yeah, and the Democrats are trying to approve. Now, they're trying to approve funds to get this done quicker.
Presidency.
The difference between those two, though, is the people at the border chose to go to the border, right? They chose to be there. They understand that means they have to wait in line. There is a difference there between people who have a choice to go somewhere and stay in those conditions, and people who are rounded up, pulled from their houses, pulled from their communities, and put in a camp, not knowing what's going to happen to them. Just imagine yourself in that position. Imagine trying to trust our government or any government that they're like, hey, we're taking you somewhere and you will have no rights. I don't care what government it is. I'm going to be very nervous about being put in a camp.
At the border.
But again, the difference there is rounding people up versus showing up.
Well, Keegan, what if you were informed? What if you got a letter in the mail and you were informed that you had been chosen to be rounded up into a camp? Would you, this is fine with you? Because it seems like it's never going to affect you. You're not part of a minority group that they're suggesting to be rounded up. You're sitting from a place of privilege being like, oh, I'm sure they won't be that bad, guys. It's just temporary. Okay, just go for a little bit.
So this is what I think you guys got confused on. So we originally talked about allowing immigrants to come over the border, and the ones that sign up for citizenship get citizenships, and then the rest, Democrats and Republicans, would agree to deport. Do you know what the first step of deporting somebody is? It's taking them out of their house. All right, so you already.
No, it's not. Wait, no, it's not.
Yes, if you're deporting.
No, you could literally tell the person.
Deportation, yeah.
Yeah, you could have voluntary deportation. You could also say, hey, you're being deported. Here's your flight information. Make sure you get on this flight, and you could stay in your house.
Okay, so
mass deportation does not require concentration camps.
Non-forcefully doing it, you are still telling somebody, hey, get out of here, or making somebody to get out of there. You're doing something. You're doing something for them to get out of there. That
Yeah, and what the something is matters. I'm not saying that to me doing something saying that you have to leave the country and providing you a flight with a date that you have to leave by, to me is far preferable than removing them from their home and putting them in a concentration camp. There are levels. This is not the argument is not should people be removed from our country. The argument is how and what's the most just and humane way to do it. I think there are more humane ways and smarter ways for our country than just putting people in concentration camps.
What if they just refuse? What if they say, "Well, I'm not going to hop on this plane. I'm not going to do what you say." Then what's the next step?
Now you've got a new crime, right? Now you're obstructing a criminal procedure. Now you've got a new crime. Right. So now that person can be detained and arrested under the same laws that you and I would be detained or arrested. Right. And then at that point, if you're refusing to do it the right way, you'll be detained and arrested and you'll be sent on a flight back to your country eventually. But yeah, you're talking about an extra crime. See, now you have to add these qualifiers in order to make it the same thing. I just think that in this world, knowing what we know, every single human being should be anti-concentration camps. I'm a bit this is what's a little sad is that we're arguing whether a concentration camp is good or bad.
No, I'm 100% anti-concentration camps, but the way you were
Democrat.
Okay, if the way you were defining.
That's what it's come to.
The way you were defining concentration camp would be the way you would define deportation as well.
No, it's not, because again, the second one requires an additional crime, right? In order to be detained, once deportation happens, in order for you to be detained and removed from your house, you have to commit a second crime.
Yeah, and I was just during Jay's debate last night, just to add to this, I was talking to one of our legally Mormon. He's a judge, and he was saying it could be a felony, right, to cross into the States illegally, but what's the point of charging with one because then you're giving people who are not citizens of the United States due process, right? You're giving them more rights in America almost. And that's the other issue, is there's two sides of this. You're actually, by charging people with crimes, by giving them due process, you're affording them the rights they don't necessarily have. So that's a whole other issue, which allows them, my point there being, is to stay in this country longer, to go through a longer legal process that is backlogged.
Also stating, then that would make jails and prisons concentration camps.
Well, let's do this. Let's say that's an argument for another day. I'm wiped. I know Felice is wiped. We have a hard cutoff at 1 normally, and I didn't sleep. So I'm not saying that I don't want your voice to be heard, but maybe it's a conversation for another day, and we'll leave it kind of where we're at right now. Does that work for you, Keegan?
Yeah, that works for me. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, bro. Hey, look, I
Appreciate
appreciate the time. Be well, buddy. Let's see if when he drops this time, if he can still talk to
Maybe
us.
we'll
That was
hear his
crazy.
voice for the rest of the weekend. Just whenever we're talking, just be Keegan's here.
Well,
I got
all that work for nothing on the outline, but I love the opportunity to hear you debate. I like that. I like when I can sit back. Do you have any last words, Felice, before we go, or we just close our eyes and call it a day?
Oh yeah, I think it's time for you to take a nap. But yeah, tonight,
look,
the State of the Union's tonight. So I think we're gonna know a lot from there. I think there's gonna be a lot of conversation after the State of the Union, like how Joe Biden positions things, whether or not Margarine's gonna show up and scream while he's talking, like last time. You know what I mean? I think after tonight there will be a larger conversation to have, and a lot more debate will open up based on what happens.
Right.
Also, do you know this 42-year-old the youngest senator in the I think she's one of the youngest senators. She's 42. She's from Alabama. She's giving the rebuttal. You know how she's giving the rebuttal. I was just I was like, this seems like someone Jay would have a crush on. You should. What's her name? Britt? I can't remember. But yeah, it will be interesting to watch the rebuttal. Also, Donald Trump is fact checking Joe Biden live in real time.
Yeah.
Like, God help that. So there's that to look forward to. He says in real time he's going to fact check Joe Biden's lies. So just so many broadcasts to choose from.
I also need to cover. Let me just actually find the event.
Like,
I don't know
the
if Jen
lie,
wants to cover
a
it.
pathological liar will be fact checking somebody else's lies. Like, the irony of where we've come to in this country.
Perfect. I'm waiting for one of the mods to come. We have an event tomorrow in our Discord, and I just don't want to mess up like the details of it. So let me see
Oh,
who's
also,
in the
I want to
box.
say real quick, Chelsea, Political Mom is having a live tomorrow. She's having a Uvalde father on, just all things Uvalde. It's at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I just wanted to mention that. I forgot. I promised her I was going to mention it.
It's really quick. Kim, are you free? I see you typing. If you're free, I don't, either one of you, because I don't know it as well as you guys do. If you guys want to hop in the box really fast and can talk about the event tomorrow.
Yeah, I see Kim and Prague
yeah.
debating whether or not which one of them wants to come up and do it. I just don't know the
You,
exact
Kim.
details.
There
There's
you
Kim.
go. Yeah.
There you go.
There she's here.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey.
Tired.
Yes, exhausted. So thanks so much for mentioning tomorrow. We're very, very excited. So there's been a lot of conversations in the news and just around society talking about our non-binary and transgender friends and family members as if they're someone different or they're othered or they're just like these abstract beings and not actual humans that we interface with on a day-to-day basis. So we're actually going to be platforming two of our Discord members tomorrow who are going to just share their stories and answer questions in a safe and transparent space. So if anybody's interested in hearing a little bit more about what it means to be non-binary, what it means to be a transgender person, how the current laws and just societal opinions are affecting actual human beings that walk around among you, we hope that you can join us. We're going to have a Q&A, so we'll be answering questions in real time. It's going to be a very respectful place to be, but we're just hopeful that this can offer some education and humanization for our friends.
Yeah, and again, you just need to be in the Discord to access that. If you're not in the Discord, shoot.
What time
Jen,
is it?
Now,
People are asking what time.
Oh yeah, what time, Kim?
Oh God, see that?
Correct.
I don't know. I'm just gonna show up.
9:30 Eastern or 6:30 Pacific.
6:30.
In the Discord.
Thanks, Jen.
So-
I'll be there. I don't know.
So just join the Discord. If you need an invite to the Discord, if you're not in it, shoot Jen or Kim a message. We'll get you a link to the Discord. Then you can jump in. Like I said, we want it to be a safe space, but we want it to be an open discussion. So in the Discord VC, I think there's room for up to, is it 50 people that can be in the VC?
I think we're doing it in a different space, and
That's
think
right.
Pat said
That's
we can
right.
have like 100. We're going to do a lecture
That's right.
hall,
That's right.
so I think we
Lecture
can
hall.
hold more.
By chance, if by chance it gets full, I'm going to try to see if I can record it to upload it for the YouTube later, which we can talk about that too. We try to upload all the lives that we have in conversations to the YouTube. It's RTP Talks is the YouTube name. If you guys could go over there and subscribe, it doesn't cost anything. We'd really appreciate it. And so I have most of the stuff from yesterday with the mod debate. There's a piece of it that I'm going to get up later today, and then also with this live as well.
Go take a nap, Jen. Stop and just go take a nap. Anything else to add to that, Kim?
Nope, that's it. It's tomorrow. I saw some people talking about what day is it. Tonight is State of the Union. Tomorrow is VC.
There's a chance we will live stream the State of the Union, but it's like a 20% chance. So it just depends on if my computer gets here in time and if I can figure it out and if I have any energy left over whatsoever. So Felice, you mentioned Chelsea's live. You're also going to be there for some of it as well. I will not be here tomorrow. Our live will not exist tomorrow. This is the last day of the week for us. So make sure you're catching Chelsea and Felice over there. Is that it? All right. Just one more comment to read from Aaron. Aaron sent a donation. for financial crime investigation on Josh. We've got a fund started to investigate Josh.
Too bad Josh isn't here. He probably is. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh. It's good to see you. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go try and sleep.
All right.
Love you
Bye,
all.
everybody. Thanks.
We'll see
Bye,
ya.
guys.